Welcome to the FOIA YouTube channel, Open Mic Discussion.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to Open Mic number 118. Hope everyone's doing well today. Got a pretty full panel today. Got a lot of people joining, and we still got people who look like coming in to the live chat. So today we're going, as I said yesterday, we're going back into the depositions. This is the deposition of William Beck. It's a fairly long one. It's not, certainly there are others that are quite a bit longer than this one. This one is 133 pages, so it's probably around 125 by the time it's all said and done. So we'll be taking a dive into this one here shortly. First, we'll let everyone say hello right quick, and we'll greet everyone in the live chat, and then we're going to get rolling. So, because we got a lot of ground to cover. So first up, Alice, how are you today?
Hi Jack, yeah, not too bad. Bloody cold here in Scotland. Hi to everyone in chat and hi to everyone on the panel.
Yeah, pretty chilly here too. About the same. And Cherie, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Welcome to Open Mic, and we'll enjoy the show.
There you go. And Susan, looky there.
Hello, Jack. Hello, panel. Hello, chatters. Hello, lurkers. Welcome.
Hey, that's right. We never say hi to the lurkers. Good point.
We don't. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to say hi to them too. And just Rhonda, how are you today?
Oh gosh, I was having an ADD moment. Sorry. I'm doing well, thank you. Just got lots of little projects going on, so I'm a little all over the place.
Did you mess around with Prism anymore after we talked earlier?
Well, I did finish recording Andy B. I did finish recording what I wanted to record, and it worked well. It worked really well. So
There you go.
after I get done with a couple projects, I'll play around with it more. See
Good.
what goes on.
Excellent. Yeah, I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it.
Yep, it's really good. It's a really easy. The interface is really quite pleasant, if I could say it like that, because it's so much easier than OBS was for me. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Even though they're basically the same program, it's like updated OBS.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. All righty. Thank you, Rhonda. And Sunshine Christina.
Greetings, everyone on the panel and in chat, and I'm looking forward to hearing what ridiculousness we have in store for us today.
No doubt. Yeah, the same here. I think I've read this one probably one time, but it's been ages ago. So, yeah, it should be interesting. And, of course, Dr. Soap, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Jack61. Thank you very much. And hi to all my fellow panel members, and good to see everyone in chat. Yeah, this should be very, very interesting. Cannot wait. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, let's see who we have in the live chat today. At least so far. I see Case 10 from a cornfield somewhere. Again, kidding. I always say that. I think he's got his combine put up for the year. I'm sure the ground is quite frozen. And I see Colette, TTM Fangirl. Who else we have here? There's Ronald Cass. Andy B. Hey, there's Finn. Always good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome. Who else we have? There's Cher. There's JD, Donna, Pete Moss, There's Gloria. Thanks for coming. And that was Tuco. Tuco was the first one up there, way up there. Anyway, if I missed anybody, I apologize, but I think I pretty well covered everyone. So let me get this document pulled up, and we'll get a little orientation here as to where we are. Just a second here. All right, that's going to come in there. So here we are. The one we finished the other day, or the last open mic, was in May 13th. Now we're skipping forward to, you'll see the date here's July. There you go. It's July 13th. And there's this one, and Lynn Zygmunt is also on this day. It's after this one. It's not as long. And then there's two on the 14th, which we'll get to all of them, but that's kind of the orientation. So a few months have passed since May. I don't know why they didn't have anything in June, but they did. I'm not sure what could have preempted, but it's hard to say. They probably were worried about Gregory Allen. Be my guess, but anyway. So we have a room full of lawyers as always. I'm not going to read. Well, I guess I should, because we've got several here. So I'm going to ask that Susan, are you able to read today?
You bet, Jack. I'd love to.
Awesome. And then Rhonda, are you able to read today? A main part. So I was going to have. I'm trying to think. See how many lawyers we got here. 1, 2. The main lawyer. I don't know if it's Glenn or Kelly. I was going to have you do Glenn or Kelly, and Susan do the replies as Beck.
It's Kelly, Jack.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, these are pretty. Like I said, these are pretty long. We can always trade up, so you're not stuck with a kabillion hours. I'll do Cobelli and Basket. Alice, if you could do Paula. And I don't see Finkelman. I guess he didn't have to be at this one because there's not a DOJ person there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not there. Okay. So we could do that. Can you do Paula and Alice?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I doubt that these others say too much, probably like the same as before. And as we can see, Stephen and Jody were also there.
I'm just excited to be able to hear Susan reading again. It's been such a long time since
I know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we missed you.
Yeah,
All right.
I missed it too.
If there's no other business, does anyone have anything before we start? I kind of got into this pretty quickly, but it's pretty long, so I didn't want to waste too much time. Is there anything any announcements, Doc, or anyone that needs to be made before we start?
If I could just say something very, very quickly. I'm just looking at the feedback that we got from yesterday's reading with the crew. And look, it was a very passionate, very fiery episode. And I'd just like to say that, I do apologize on behalf of foul play that a little bit of harsh language was used. But at the same time, I don't really apologize, if you know what I mean, because we did put up the warning that potentially harsh language was going to be used. And one must consider the material that we are actually covering at the moment. It's very emotive. A lot of people are very upset. And I think it's important that we say it as it is. We reveal our true feelings. There's no point, in hiding behind a microphone or whatever. It is a very disgusting situation, and we are reading a very emotive chapter at the moment on Mr. Kratz. And, if you are sensitive to a little bit of harsh language, please note we give the warning at the beginning. We try our best, but at the end of the day, if a little bit of excessive harsh language is used, please forgive us. Our hearts and heads are in the right place. Thank you very much, Jack 61.
Yeah, I saw a comment that, and it, I get exactly what you're saying. Sorry, not sorry. And I don't say that to be a smart ass. I really don't. These are very polarizing people or cases, as you said, and they bring out probably some of the worst emotion in us because you think, how could people do this to other people? I don't give a shit who they are. We don't know them. I mean, none of us are related to the Averys or the Dasseys or any of the lawyers. But knowing that another human or a group of humans with their bias, with their reasons, their driver would do this to two other human beings, especially a child. It's one thing to an adult, which is bad enough, but to a child, and do it with intent and not for the truth. It was never for the truth. It was to stop something else from happening. It and I did put the warning up at least twice, if not 3 times. But I know for sure I put it up twice. So yeah, I'm with you, Doc. We all have our. I mean, I try not to cuss too much, but there are times that I just get aggravated and it comes out. I just don't hold it in no more. I just don't.
Well, so. And it's 3 individuals whose lives have been completely destroyed, right? Because we still don't know what happened to Teresa.
Well,
right?
True.
Their story of what happened to her, but their story is so full of holes. We don't know what happened to her either. And I think that should, be foremost on everyone's mind. Not only did they destroy Stephen and Brendan's life, but they used this poor woman to sell a story that is so far from what actually occurred. What are they doing to others? It's very frustrating that this is who we have to rely on for quote, justice.
Yeah, there's no way this is a one-off. Yeah, you're right about that. They were too...
Sorry, Jack, just before we get started, case 10 is asking, who is William Beck?
William Beck is, you'll see here, he's a Manitowoc Sheriff's Department employee, and it tells, just a second, I'll scroll back up. He is the Deputy Inspector of Support Services, so they'll probably go into that, but Manitowoc County Sheriff's employee. So, anyway, thank you, Doc. Everyone. Again, we we're big people. This is an adult-oriented. We don't advertise this for children. With that said, we get it. We try not to F-bomb too much, but it does come out. Forgive us. Look at what we're, try to put yourself in our shoes a little bit, I guess, because we have dug so deep into this. It is very polarizing and very emotional for us, and it just comes out instead of bottling it up. It just comes out the way it does. So with that said, let's move on and get started with this examination. So Susan, you and Rhonda start whenever you are ready.
Rhonda?
Did we lose Rhonda?
I was muted.
Oh.
I'm reading along. Okay, sorry. Examination by Mr. Walter F. Kelly. Would you state your name, please?
William Beck.
And what's your current address, Mr. Beck?
137 Riverwood Drive, Mishicot, Wisconsin.
And where are you employed?
Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department.
And what's the address for the sheriff's department?
1025 South 9th Street, Manitowoc.
Would you please give me both your home and business phone numbers, please?
Business phone
Colin.
That's
Alex.
Alex.
Oh.
Go ahead, but I'm going to ask that the phone number, if it's disclosed, be disclosed off the record.
Can you give us the business phone?
Business phone is area code 920-683-4199.
What position do you hold with the sheriff's department?
Deputy Inspector of Support Services.
And for how long have you held that position?
15 years.
What are the duties of that position?
The duties are maintaining the record system. I should say the old record system. The new record system is run by the IS department now. Bailiffs, courtroom security, and process.
What does support services refer to?
It refers to everything else in this department that isn't related to the jail or operations, which is patrol and detectives.
You just made reference to an old record system and a new record system. Would you tell us, first of all, what the old record system was?
The old record system was a custom-made system by the IS department, the old IS department, a very minimal system. It only kept track of the incident data and not the narrative.
When you say the incident data, let's take a particular crime. Would that be an incident within the meaning of that system?
Correct.
And the old system would retain what data with respect to the crime?
The time of the call, officers or people assigned, the complainant information, and a very brief description, usually maybe a sentence or two of what had taken place.
Is it true that if we went to the time under the old system when such a crime occurred, that there would be generated at that time additional information in the form of incident reports?
Correct.
And in addition to incident reports, would there be any other documents generated with respect to that particular crime?
There could be, yes.
And what would those be, for example?
Oh, it could be statements, photographs, anything related to that case. I can't think what else we'd have there. Statements would be the biggest one.
And would the case be given a number and or classification?
Both.
Okay. And first of all, tell me how the classification system worked, and then I'm going to ask you about the numbering.
The classification, there's numbering systems for all types of crime. That really has nothing to do with the sheriff's department. It's more for incident-based UCR reporting to the federal government. We have to classify each crime to a code that's UCR specific, so we can report our crimes at the end. Our crime totals and statistics at the end of the year. The number that's assigned, we assign it an incident number. And each year, those numbers are reassigned. You know, like say 2005, start out with 1, run it as far as the numbers go. 2006, the only thing that would change would be the 2006. The numbers would start all over again from 1 on.
If in a particular incident more than one crime was committed or thought to have been committed, would there be separate numbers, or would it be the incident number and then A, B, C, D, and so forth?
There used to be separate incidents years ago. That was before my time with the system, and that has changed. If it's an incident for maybe the past 20 years, maybe 15 years, I don't know exactly, whatever is related to that incident would be on that incident report. No matter how many crimes would be, you'd have 2 or 3 crimes, 4 or 5 crimes, it would all be, and if it's related to the one incident, it would all be on that one incident report.
Recall, and you correct me if I've got this wrong, there were at least 3 crimes that were charged with respect to the sexual assault of Penny Berenson. If we use that as an example, would that then have one incident report number?
It should have. I don't know what system they were working back in 1985.
All right. And earlier you referred to the classification system and you made reference to the UCR code. Would that be Uniform Crime Reporting Code?
That's correct.
So the function of the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department with respect to a particular alleged criminal incident would be to take the classification scheme and present it as presented by the Uniform Crime Reporting System and fit that incident into it. So, for example, if there was a classification like battery and the investigating officer thought this to be a battery, it would be classified for UCR purposes as a batter.
I don't understand what you're getting at, but under the old UCR reporting, there is a pecking order of crime. You could have, they would take the higher crime, whatever that would be, say auto theft. And then there was disorderly conduct. They'd probably take the auto theft as the more serious of the two that would be reported. I don't believe under the UCR that the disorderly conduct would be on that report.
Okay, but that's fine. What I was trying to establish is that the only discretionary element in terms of the classification is for the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department investigator to determine into what classification to place a particular incident.
I object to form use of the word discretionary. Go ahead.
It's really not up to the investigator. This is something that we classify. I don't work directly with UCR, but each crime that's on that report is classified with a code that's sent into UCR.
And if the investigator doesn't do that, who does do that?
This would be a clerical function.
Okay. All right. And the clerical function would be located where in the department?
It would be under me.
All right. Now, what's the new system?
The new system is New World Computer Systems. Where we did not store the narrative electronically, we can do that now. Everything that's on the report is stored electronically.
All right. Again, let's go back to the old system. And does there come a time under the old system where the materials relating to a particular crime that go beyond the data, for example, the interviews, the incident report narratives, are no longer kept? What happens to those materials under the old system?
They're kept with the incident.
And are those kept all in one file?
What do you mean by one file?
One file with the incident report number on it.
Correct.
And for how long are they kept in storage?
Right now we've been keeping it, I believe, since 1980.
All right. Were you the person responsible for supervising the development of the lists of personnel that were provided to us by your council? People who had been employees within the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office between 1979 and the present.
No,
Do you know who did that?
I have no idea.
Okay. So you wouldn't know what old system and new system means with respect to those personnel records.
No, I would not.
All right. Prior to your service as Deputy Inspector of Support Services, what position did you hold in the department?
Lieutenant on patrol.
And for how long were you in that position?
I believe it was a year, maybe a year and a half.
And before that,
Sergeant.
in any particular area?
Patrol.
And for how long were you a sergeant?
I believe that was 2 years.
And before that,
Patrolman or deputy.
and for how long did you hold that position?
15. Oh, let's see. I think it was 79, maybe 10 years.
When did you start with the department?
1975.
If you can, I'd like you to focus on a period of time in 1985, which I think would be just as you are transitioning from deputy patrolman to sergeant, and tell us what you recall of how the department was organized at that time.
What do you mean, organized?
What was the
It was total
organizational?
chaos. Sorry.
It was a giant clusterfuck.
Sorry.
It was a fusterclock. What are you talking about, you stupid bastard?
Clusterfuck.
Oh, that was a good one. I needed that laugh.
Anyway. Oh, God. What was the organizational structure?
Well, there's the sheriff. There was a chief deputy, the undersheriff position. I don't know where that was at that time. The chief deputy did not assume those duties until 87, I believe. They were separate. I don't know who the undersheriff was at that time, but the chief deputy. And then there was, God, I'd have to think, 3 or 4 captains maybe. Each one ran a department.
Try not to hurt your brain as you're thinking. And the lieutenants under the captains and sergeants under the lieutenants.
Yes.
Said that wrong, sorry. Can you estimate the size of the department in 1985?
It'd be a guess, maybe 75, 80 people. 85,
What's the size of the department now?
maybe 125.
And how is the department organized now?
You have the sheriff, the undersheriff / chief deputy. That position has been combined. You have 3 deputy inspectors, operations support in jail, and then you have the lieutenants and sergeants under them.
Have you previously given testimony under oath?
Yes.
Could you estimate the number of times you've testified under oath?
I couldn't. I have no idea.
Would it be more than 100?
No.
More than 10?
More than 10, yeah. 50 maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't even begin to guess.
Okay.
It would only be a guess.
All right. If you would reach to your right to exhibit number 48, take a moment and examine that.
Okay.
You're appearing here today as the custodian of records for the Sheriff's Department, is that correct?
That's correct.
There's various documents laid out to your left that bear various exhibit stickers. Did you gather these documents in your capacity as custodian for purposes of this case?
It appears to be the ones I gathered, yes.
All right. Have you seen exhibit 48 before?
Yes, I have.
All right. Tell me generally, before we go into the particulars of the request, what you did to gather these documents for the Sheriff's Department for this deposition.
Well, the first thing it asked for is, anything we had on Mr. Stephen Avery and Mr. Greg Allen. I read the records on both of them, both the incident reports and the dispositions of any arrests. I went back and checked the files for each one of those records, got out as many, I think we were missing one or two. And then I checked with the jail to see if they had anything with the jail. They produced what they had. The sheriff had some information in his safe that was produced. The procedure manual. We did have an old policy procedure manual from 1980, and the photographs and the incident from the Avery case of 1985 was in the safe. So it was all collected.
Let's pause right there. Let's pause right there. What's all this shit done? Yeah, what's all this shit done in the safe? Come on.
No kidding.
And just as importantly, I would like to know, maybe they'll get into it. I just don't remember. I would like to know what was in the safe. I guess this is important as why. Well, I guess I can answer that. And to me, that's specifically because whoever the sheriff was, going back, he didn't trust that shit wouldn't disappear or something that wouldn't happen to it. Or he didn't trust he didn't want anybody else to see it. Go ahead, Christina.
No, was that Peterson at this time? Sorry.
Yeah. So Peterson had files in his safe that he had to produce for the depositions. That's interesting. And now we have how many people confirming this? Because remember, this is like a Gilter thing. They weren't in the safe. So that's Beck, Link, Colburn, and Peterson himself who have confirmed.
Couché too. And Jean Couché.
Ian Couché. The other thing that I find interesting is this UCR. Because you know that I've been doing some digging on the Uniform Crime Report. And he just testified under oath that they've been reporting UCR reports since the 80s, if I'm reading that right.
Yeah.
But when I requested their UCR reports, they didn't have anything going back past 2014.
Well, there is a, and I don't know what, and because I know they have different file retention policies, like, audio recordings for like dispatch and stuff is like 3 years.
See, the UCR is federal funding. That's why they have to do that. They can't get rid of it. They're not allowed to get rid of it. They can claim they never started it, right? Which is what they were trying to pretend to do when the Saki grant money came to them. But we have this dude under oath. I'm sorry, we have this officer under oath saying they were filing UCR reports back in the 80s. That's really, I don't know how I didn't catch that. I don't know if I've ever read this deposition.
I did, but it's been, like I said, what says?
I was just going to ask her, are you sure that federally they don't have a retention policy?
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Because that's a lot of data.
Yeah, but they
may have a,
even if they don't have the actual records, they have the
statistics, the end result. Yeah.
The annual numbers, how many sexual assaults, how many murders, how many attempted murders, and they claim they have that.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't. I mean, I don't know. That's something. That's probably a separate thing than, like we request records through open records, and I know that the list that I was given, the state one for the DOJ, and most of the counties are relatively in line, about the same. They keep emails for 7 years. Like I said, audio, like dispatch call and so forth, I think is 3 years when they purge them. But I don't know about these other. I don't know. That's probably something you're going to have to dive off into to really find out what the
Uniform Crime Reporting System began as a federal project to track crime, right? And sheriff, I have. That's why I'm like really freaked out right now.
Right.
So police departments, any kind of agency that claimed to be a law enforcement agency, could apply for funding if they kept track of crime in their area and submitted it. That's what UCR is. That's what the purpose of it is,
right.
to track crime so that there's a database of it, right? It helps them track serial offenders. It helps them to see if crime is up or down, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's the point of it. So by them saying they were, because this is what this guy is saying, that he was submitting this information for the UCR. So how are they saying they never submitted the information to the UCR until, you see what I'm saying? There's something fishy here. That's interesting. Good catch. Good call.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like it, you know, even if they don't have the raw data, they should have the numbers. If they reported for that funding, for federal funding, they should have the end result, the statistics. So I don't know. I really don't. That's interesting. It's also interesting. Another point. This guy's been around a long time. I don't know. Of course, this is 2005, so he's been there for since '79. It looks like he came in, and that's when.
Yeah.
Didn't Casort become sheriff in '78 or '79? Isn't that right?
God, that's 46 years. Am I counting that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Jesus Christ.
Wait, see, 20, 40, 43, 44 years? You're close.
No, 2003. Remember, these depositions are in
2005.
2005.
26 years.
No, these are 2005. 2005. That's 2003.
Yeah.
It's still a long
26.
time. He knows a
Yeah.
lot.
But yeah, that's, yeah.
Jack,
Well,
chatters are saying that Christina's voice is really low. They can't really hear her very well.
oh, let me see here. Well, I'll turn her up. She's at 100%, but I'll turn her up.
I heard her great.
Yeah, I hear okay. Try it now, Christina.
Sounds fine
Test.
to me.
Do a test.
Can you now? Test.
That should be better. It definitely improved for me.
Behind the Magic just said she sounds far away.
It should have improved it right there, though. I turned it up to
better.
Okay, good.
Okay, they said yes, it's better.
Good. Okay, well, yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, this guy's been around a long time, so he's been through and was with Casort and his, you know, when it was really funny. What do you mean organizational?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's like an organized crime, you know? I don't know. So he's been through it with this guy, and so he's probably, I'm sure he was influenced in one way or another by the sheriff or one of his handpicked. I won't say goon because that's mean, but that's kind of what I mean. So anyway, I think that's the last thing I want to say. That's the last thing I could think of. Okay, line. Whenever you want to start back on to line 14.
All right, I'm going to suggest first, and I think this is what we'll do. We'll go through these piles and get them identified and get your knowledge about what they represent. And then I'm going to go through the various categories in the request for production of documents with you. So let's start with exhibit number 37. And if you would take a moment and examine that pile of documents and tell me what that represents to you and how you gathered it as the custodian of documents for the Sheriff's Department.
These documents are
Colin?
These documents were in the safe. Oh, sorry.
I'm just going to move this out of the way for you.
These documents were in the safe. These are an old Reserve Deputy Policy Procedural Manual. I don't know what the date of this thing was. 1981, I guess. Okay, and then there was some amendments to that, or no, I take that. These here, these two separate things here. This was a Reserve Deputy Policy Procedure Manual that was in the safe from 1981.
I'm going off of your copy, Jack.
Sorry, scrolling.
That's okay. And that you had your left hand on a manila folder that is part of the documents that are Exhibit 37. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then these were amendments to the, I believe it's the 1980 Policy Procedure Manual. That would be these documents here.
All right. Let's put them in a separate pile. And then these were memos to dispatchers. There was no policy procedure. They were governed by the main manual. These were just memos to dispatchers. Oh wait. What just happened?
I don't know. What's the problem?
You keep
I
going.
just read Susan's lines.
No, you didn't.
I didn't?
No.
You have two in a row there.
Oh, okay. It's like, wait a minute. Okay, sorry. All right. All right. I'm going to suggest that we take a moment and go off the record.
Reporter, off the record. Looks like for 1 minute, we're back on the record.
Mr. Beck, we have marked exhibit number 37 on the manila folder. Would you tell us again what that manila folder is, please?
This is an old Reserve Deputy Policy Procedure Manual going back to 1981.
Within the meaning of how the phrase is used within the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department, what is a reserve deputy?
A reserve deputy is on-call deputy that's assigned to specific functions, like Cuss Road.
Is a reserve deputy a paid deputy?
Yes.
Is a reserve deputy a part-time deputy?
Yes. No, I take that back. It's not a part-time, it's an on-call deputy.
And the distinction is what?
Part-time would be considered a regular employee. The hours would be so many hours per week.
And an on-call reserve deputy is not a regular employee, is that right?
It's not regular part-time. They're an on-call. Their classification is an on-call worker.
All right. Are the requirements for the hiring of a reserve deputy the same as the requirements for the hiring of a regular deputy?
Today or in 1981?
Well, let's start in 1985.
I don't know. I don't know what the hiring practices were for reserve deputies back then.
And how about today?
They're the same.
Do you know when that changed?
Nope, I don't. I do not.
Objection assumes a fact not in evidence. And then Mr. Bascom, he said he didn't know in 1985.
Well, you were a deputy yourself in 1985, right?
That's correct.
And were these reserve deputy? And were there reserve deputies in 1985?
Yes.
All right, then shut the fuck up, Bascom. What procedures did you have to go through to become a deputy?
In 1985,
Mm-hmm.
I was hired in 1975.
Okay. What procedures did a deputy have to go through for hiring in 1985?
I don't know.
What procedures did you go through in 1975?
I think there was a written test. I don't know if it was civil service or not. There were 2 interviews and you were hired.
And do you know whether or not reserve deputies had to take the written test?
I don't know.
Okay. I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 38 and ask you to tell us what that is.
It's an old Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department policy procedure manual from 1980.
Could you reach to your left and take Exhibit 39 and tell me what Exhibit 39 is?
This is our current policy procedure manual.
When did your current policy and procedure manual become effective?
I don't know the exact date on it. I believe it was like 89 or 90.
All right. And if you go back to exhibit number 38, was number 38 the effective policy and procedure manual until number 39 became effective?
I believe so, yes.
All right. You did not, in your search for documents, find any interim policy and procedure manual between the effective date of exhibit number 38 and the effective date of exhibit number 39?
No, I did not.
All right. I'm going to show you these two sets of documents that we have marked as 38A and 38B. And I know you've testified about them previously, but now that we've marked and identified exhibit number 38, would you tell us what those two sets of exhibits are with respect to exhibit 38?
The 38A, these would be additions to the 1980. Well, I see there's stuff here from 1979. I don't know if these were additions to the 1980 manual or what they were. The best guess is they probably were.
Do you understand them to be supplemental to the policies and procedures represented in exhibit 38?
Some of them, yeah.
All right. Any of them that are not?
One is from 1979. I doubt they were.
And what would be the force and effect of those documents included in Exhibit 38A that are dated 1979 at that time? Would they be like memoranda from the sheriff to personnel about?
It appears to be, yes.
All right. And how about Exhibit 38B? What are those documents relative to Exhibit 38?
These are memos to the dispatchers. Whether they reinforce policy or not, I don't know. Or if it's just notification of a change in the way of doing business. I don't know if these were additions to the current or to the 1980 policy.
All right. You were a deputy at the time that Exhibit number 38 was in force and effect. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
What were your obligations with respect to as a deputy with respect to the contents of exhibit 38? Sorry.
What do you mean?
Well, as deputy, were you subject to exhibit 38?
Were we guided by this?
Yes.
Yes.
Were you obliged to follow the procedures that are set forth in the various documents in exhibit 38?
Yes.
In 1985, were the deputy sheriffs in the department organized as a union?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, was there a collective bargaining relationship?
Are you talking about full-time deputies? Not.
I am.
Yes.
The reserve deputies were not part of the bargaining unit.
No, they were not.
So in terms of guiding your employment behaviors, there were two sources, the collective bargaining agreement and the policies and procedure manual. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Whose
Can I-
obligation was it? Huh?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
Does anyone have experience with unions? What does that mean? Like,
That,
what are
I
they
do.
doing
I do.
there?
Yeah, I understand it very well.
Would you explain it for those of us who are clueless, like me?
Typically speaking, when you have the collective bargaining unit and a contract, your duties are typically spelled out per that contract with your between your union and the company, or in this instance, the sheriff's department. They would agree to a set of whatever guidelines, rules, whatever regulations that they would that the whoever belonged to the union as a deputy or whatever as part of that union contract. That's what they followed. So they, in fact, had two separate policies, which I doubt that they're very far apart. The difference would be that the unionized employees would, I'm sure, have more benefits, be paid more, et cetera, et cetera.
So, so is Sheree still here? So are they asking these questions because union officers would be a different avenue for financial, how do I say this? So in a civil lawsuit, suing officers who were unionized and officers who weren't, would there be different people responsible for paying for their screw-ups? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand your question. I don't think so. I still think ultimately, no, I think this would still come out of the same pile of cash. Personally, that's what I think. I could be wrong. I think that the difference could be the union could potentially, step in with their, and provide maybe some legal services, or maybe even pony up some money if need be in certain situations. Or they could say, hey, you went outside the contract. You went outside the bounds of what you're supposed to do as an officer. We're not helping your ass. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so when those who are part of the union, to my understanding, and I'm just trying to think of Daniel's case, because he was part of the union when he was arrested. But the union, basically, you pay them to represent you in, the collective bargaining and any kind of disagreement with the company. And it's they negotiate for you for certain things, and but I don't know that I mean, I think at the end of the day, if there's a case that's won against you, I believe that it comes from it doesn't come from the union, to my knowledge.
It comes
from the department, from the city or the county. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I wonder why. All right, maybe I'm just jumping the gun here, and he's going to explain to us why he's asking these questions. But I just find that interesting right now. My only experience with the union is the guy they say that's buried under Lambeau Field. What's his name? Who is the big union guy?
Oh.
I can't even think of his name now.
Yeah, it's the mobster guy.
Hoffa, Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, where's Jimmy Hoffa? That's my only experience with the union, is Jimmy Hoffa being a union guy. And I'm not exaggerating. So thank you for helping me learn more.
Yeah, generally your collective bargaining unit, once a contract is reached, language for your job description, and it could be, it generally gets pretty specific as to your duties, what you're required to do. And, that can even extend, they could say, you have to follow company policy guidelines here, blah, 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 whatever that could be, and could reference to yet another document. So, knowing, because he is talking about reserve deputies and so forth, I'm betting he's going to get more into it as we get further into this document. I'll bet on it. I just can't remember right now. Hey, before we start back, I did want to see, we do have several more that have joined us. T1, I see has come in. He's talked a lot, so, just be mindful and be respectful. And there's Annie Painter.
Painter.
Yep.
Painter.
Yep. Behind the magic, there's the lovely Catnit. Hey, Cat, I need to talk to you after we get done tonight for just a moment. Just take a second, though. And Bethany. Who else we got rolling in here?
I think I saw Jennifer Manning's name.
I see Becca Chu. Hey, Becca.
Yours is here.
And yours? Yeah, yours is here somewhere roaming around.
Jinx popped in.
Jinxie. Yep, thanks for coming. There's Matt.
Hey,
Man,
Annie
it's a
Painter.
girl.
Annie Painter is asking, is there a link for this testimony? Or you're going to put it in the description, right? But I think it's also
No.
It?
I haven't linked to any of the depositions.
Okay.
I put a link here in Discord, but I haven't linked any of the, except for
the ones,
those depositions that are made part of public record through the Colburn v. Netflix lawsuit. There are 6 or 7, I can't remember, but somewhere around that are public record. The rest of these are not public record per se.
So
no.
I do know that a while back on the Stephen Avery is guilty Reddit sub, there was a link to these depositions shared by a guilter. Can I say that? Is that appropriate?
Yeah, they're gonna have a hell of a time finding them because that was a couple of years ago. But yeah, they're definitely. Last time I checked, they were still there. That link was still there, and it still worked.
Yeah,
that's been a long time.
Because whenever I'm like in a jam and I'm trying to find something from the civil suit depositions, I go to Reddit, and I always say I Google it. But I go to Reddit and I search the Stephen Avery is guilty sub for the link to the civil suit depositions. You just need to hit your old pal Jack up. I'll set you up.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Oh well, P1. I'm not sure. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And behind the magic says reserve deputies, if not part of the union, wouldn't have the same job protection and can't take hours from regular deputies. That's just my thought, being part of a union myself. So kind of like strike breaking, right? Like that's what they're talking about.
Well,
so maybe he's fishing to see why. That's actually, thank you for saying that. So maybe this is to try and figure out why Sandra or Judy Dvorak, who was a reserve deputy, was even involved in such a high profile case. That's actually,
because somebody called her and said, "Hey, you need to get your ass up here."
Right, but what Behind the Magics is saying is that you can't just call a reserve deputy in like that, because by union rules, you have to use your union deputies first. Is that right?
I remember Kasorik saying he couldn't get a hold of any other.
I remember that too. Yep, I remember that too.
Yeah,
and
she is also a woman to be with Penny.
I was gonna say that. I straight out asked her last week on one of my podcasts, "Are you a male or a female?"
Hey, I want to say hello to Jeff Jones. I see you popped in. Hey, thanks for coming, Jeff. Appreciate it. Who else we got here? Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, definitely. They, a union would go to bat for a regular union employee, and a reserve deputy they would not. That's for sure.
So you know what would be really beneficial would be to have a Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department employee roster from '85, because Zurich tried to claim that they didn't have a lot of money, I think, right, Susan? So they only had one cell phone or something, and he couldn't get a hold of anyone else. So he happened to
Yeah.
he just happened to call Sandra Morris's and Stephen Avery's neighbor, who, yeah. It would be nice to see like how many numbers he called before he chose her, to be
That
honest.
was all a setup in my book anyway.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
It was definitely.
Bethany is saying wasn't Cachet retired or reserve. I don't think he was in 85. I think he was, no, he was a detective, I think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did he participate in 85?
Shay?
Well, he drew the sketch.
Oh, yeah. Hello. Brain surgery.
The pencil.
Except in 05. No, I don't think he was retired in 05 either, was he?
He was retired at the time.
Died. Oh, no, he
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
he retired. No, he retired in 03.
died in 07.
Oh, 03.
Yeah, he retired in
Right
03.
when Stephen got out.
See, we learn so much, we forget in this case. I can't believe I forgot he drew the sketch. Thank you, Susan.
Traced
No
it.
problem.
Traced the
He framed
tracer.
it.
Yeah, that's right. He framed his frame.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to it.
I'm just praying.
How convenient is it that he retired in 2003 when Stephen got released in 2003?
Yeah, I don't know how many years
Yeah.
he'd been with the department at that point. I can't remember when he hired in. He'd been there for a while,
long
though.
time.
Yeah, he'd been there for a while. So he was, it wasn't like he retired early, but it is a hell of a coincidence for sure.
Well, can you try
Yeah,
to
but
address
that's just
somehow for Annie Painter why we can't give her the transcript?
I'll briefly go into that. And as you can see at the bottom of these, they say Magna Script Video Court Doc Reports. A reporter. Basically, these are civil suit documents. They're not. This is not like they went to court. However, they're still legal in the fact that it's considered sworn testimony that gets presented to a judge. Yada yada yada. Especially if the case moves forward. So they're not this. The company that they hired. Glenn and Kelly hired to do this, make these deposition recordings and transcripts. They own the copyright to it. They own the rights to the documents. Now, back a couple of years ago, we wanted the deposition, so we had a fundraiser through Eric Banana Man, and there was a lot of negotiation and all this. But anyway, one of their requirements was that we just don't publish the documents, basically. So that's the reason why that was one of their requirements. Now, legally speaking, as Christina has talked about, a guilter posted the link to all of them in the guilter sub a couple of years ago. There was a lot of complaints made, and nothing happened. Magnoscript, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I do know legally it was reported.
Before I do this, can I share the link to the Reddit post on the Stephen Avery is Guilty site that has the deposition on the in the chat?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm doing it now. Thank you.
So that's the reason why this is all driven by,
we're honoring our agreement because we try and be ethical and morally responsible people.
Yeah.
We are fighting those who are sworn to uphold ethics, morals, and justice, yet do their best to shit on it every chance they get. That's basically what it is. We're doing what we would do.
They're ethically and morally bankrupt and, in fact, owe money. So, anyway, hopefully that's that kind of gives you an idea of it was just I can't tell you what a shit show it was getting these documents. It was a disaster. It was crazy. But anyway, we were able to get them, and that we wanted the videos, and that may be something that we may yet again try to get. But we'll see. It's still being talked about. Anyway, let's get back to it. Why don't you start back at line 20 so we can kind of get back into where we were, Rhonda?
Okay.
So Jinx is saying Couché was there like 24 years or so.
Yeah, that sounds that sounds right to me. He retired. Yeah, that sounds about right.
79.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right. Yeah, it does.
Okay, what line are we starting on?
Line 20.
20.
Okay.
All right. Whose obligation was it in the department in 1985 to enforce the provisions of Exhibit 38?
I don't know. If there was an infraction of the rules or policy procedure, I would assume it would go up. How far it went up the ladder, I don't know.
Did sergeants at the time have supervisory responsibilities?
Yes, they did.
Were sergeants excluded from the bargaining unit?
They were, but I don't know when the date was on those. It was in the 80s, sometime in the 80s. I couldn't tell you exactly.
Was there an issue in the department about whether or not sergeants should be inside or outside of the bargaining unit?
What do you mean by that?
Whether they should be considered rank and file employees and included in the bargaining unit, or considered managers and supervisors and therefore outside the bargaining unit.
I don't remember any conversation on it.
All right. Unquestionably, in 1985, from lieutenant to captain and on up, those were all management employees.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
With respect to Exhibit 39, the current policies and procedures, first of all, are the members of the department obliged to comply with the provisions of those policies and procedures?
Yes.
And is there still a collective bargaining unit?
Yes.
And is the situation still the same that deputies, the two sources of rules by which deputies are guided in their employment are to collective bargaining agreement? Are the collective bargaining agreement and the current sheriff's department policies and procedures?
You're talking about the full-time deputies?
I am.
Yes.
Reserve deputies are still excluded from the bargaining unit.
Still excluded. Yes.
And who's responsible for the enforcement of the current policies and procedures?
I would imagine any supervisor.
So sergeants on up.
Correct.
And was that also true under the old Exhibit 38 policies and procedures?
Well, they fell into the union or non-union. I don't know. Oh, where they fell into the union or non-union, I don't know. If they were union, no, I don't think they were required to enforce it. I don't know. I don't know what the hell
You're
is going
talking
on
about?
here. Yeah.
You don't know whether sergeants were supervisory or in the unit at the time.
They were supervisory, but they were in the bargaining unit. When they were out, I don't know.
That sounds weird to me.
Well,
when they were supervisors, they were in the unit. Okay, never mind. I was confusing unit with union. Because as a
okay.
supervisor, supervisors and like up typically, from what little experience I have with the union, is
Considered
if they're
management.
part of the supervisory or management, there you go.
Yeah.
They are not permitted to be allowed of the collective of the union.
Yeah, it's different for police and I think for firemen as well.
Okay. So if you're a patrolman and your sergeant tells you to comply with a particular In 1985, with a particular provision of Exhibit 38, you have to follow that order, right?
Yes, I would think so.
So you can't say, listen, you're in the bargaining unit with me and I'm not going to follow your order.
Not
He's a sergeant.
sure.
He's a supervisor. You do what you're told.
Correct.
Okay. Other than in 1985, other than the collective bargaining agreement and Exhibit 38, the policies and procedures of the Sheriff's Department, were there any other sources of mandatory authority concerning the behavior of members of the department that you found? Any writings?
No.
There are 3 red rope files here that are marked Exhibits 40A, 40B, and 40C. I'm going to ask you to start with 40A, and if you would, please tell me what that is.
This is the case file. Or, yeah. This is the case file to the Penny Berenson assault, July 29th, 1985.
And on the face of that file folder there are some numbers and some other statements. Do you see those?
You're talking about individual files?
No, I'm talking about the face of the red rope file, 40A.
Okay.
What are the numbers on the front of that?
This one right here?
Yes.
S85-04851.
And what does that number represent?
That's an incident number that was assigned to this case.
All right. And what's the rest of the front of the red rope file say?
It says, quote, Avery case folder number 1 of 3, end quote.
All right. Did you create that red rope file?
Nope, I did not.
Did you locate that red rope file in response to our request for production of documents?
Yes, I did.
Where was it located?
In our safe, of course.
And when, stop making me laugh. And when you say quote unquote our safe, are you referring,
The sheriff's department safe.
okay, do you know who had placed it in the safe?
Nope, I do not.
And at the time that you found it, were all the manila folders that are inside the red rope file in that file?
Nope, they were not.
Who put them in there?
I had a
Wow.
detective supervisor go through it, so it made some sense. So we were being asked for the report, so he put in some order so that we could understand it.
All right. And who was that?
Dun, da, da, da. Detective Jim Link.
Oh, Tay.
Lenk.
Do you know where Detective Link gathered the manila folder files that are included inside the red rope file that's marked as Exhibit 40A?
Where he got the manila folders?
Stop copying me. Where he got the file materials that are included in those manila folders.
You mean the documentation itself?
Yes.
Out of the file was in a file bin, a file drawer. That thing right there. So
So let me just hand you that. What you're saying is that these manila folder files, subfiles that are included within Exhibit 40A were in that bin that's to your immediate left?
no. No, the entire Avery file was in here, and he put it in a manila folders according to statements and incidents, and so it made some sense.
I bet he did. And did he then create the red rope file and put those folders inside it? Created the red rope file.
This file here,
Yeah.
it could have been him.
Okay. So prior to his doing that, had you seen the materials themselves, the reports and so forth, the loose papers that he organized and put into those files and subfiles?
Yes, I did.
And where did you see them?
In this file, in the safe.
Did you say in the safe?
Dun dun.
Yeah. Yes.
So let's bring that back on camera. Sorry. That particular container had Avery materials in it, loose and that was in the safe.
That's correct.
Do you know how those materials got in there and what got into and that got it? Wait, do you know how those materials got in there and that got into the safe? That makes no sense.
Nope, I do not.
Who do you know who put that container with those Avery materials into the safe?
Nope, I do not.
Do you know who would know that?
Well, you can start with the sheriff and work down.
Okay, smart else. Can I see Exhibit 40A for a moment, please? Who has access to the safe?
As far as I know, the sheriff, the undersheriff, our clerical coordinator, and the deputy inspector of operations, and myself.
Who is the undersheriff?
Rob Herman.
Ah, and who's the deputy inspector of operations?
Greg Shetter.
How do you spell that last name?
SCHER. No. That's SCHETTER.
And who's the clerical coordinator?
Kathy Least. LEIST.
And where is the
Least,
safe
Leist.
kept? Least, I would say least.
It's kept in our clerical office upstairs on the first floor.
Where's the clerical office in relation to the sheriff's office?
When you come in the front door, the sheriff's office is to your right. The clerical office is to your left as soon as you walk in the front door.
When did you first see the materials unorganized in that bin?
When I started receiving records requests for it,
Which was when?
I don't know, months back.
Was it as early as September of 2003 when Stephen Avery was released?
I don't know. No, I don't think it was that soon.
Would you take a look at Exhibit 40B, please, and tell me what that red rope file is?
You want me to read just what it is?
Sure.
Same number, S85-04851, quote, Avery case folder number 2 of 3, end quote.
And what's in that file?
Well, looks like miscellaneous background checks according to the folder. An envelope. Another folder with some evidence. Another file folder that says, quote unquote, for prints. I don't see anything in it, though.
And to your knowledge, who prepared that file and subfiles?
This would have been talking about re-prepare this thing or originally put it together?
I'm saying who put that
Together? This
physical property that's in your hands right now together?
dun, da, da, da,
Uh,
Detective Jim Link.
Okay. And when did he do that?
Had to be maybe a month, maybe 2 months ago.
And from what materials did he work to prepare that subfile?
Out of the same bin.
Case 10 said danger music. We create our own around here. We don't pay nobody for danger music. All
But
right.
she
And would you take...
still didn't die.
Oh God, Susan, stop.
Sorry. Sorry.
So creepy. All right. And would you take Exhibit 40C, please, and tell us what that is?
Incident number S85-04851, folder number 3 of 3. Photos and photocopies, negatives, and 2 audio tapes.
And who prepared that subfile and filed subfiles and file?
Dun, da, da, da. Jim Link.
All right. And again, at the same time,
Correct.
and the materials came from the bin again.
From the bin. Yes.
To your knowledge, were there any materials in the bin that have not been provided today?
Not that I'm aware of.
As far as you know, has every document or thing that bears the incident report number S85-04851 been produced in response to the request for production of documents?
To the best of my knowledge.
All right. And the person who made the determination of the various subcategories and subfiles within Exhibits 40A, B, and C is Detective Lank,
Correct.
not you.
Correct.
But he was subject to your supervision when he did that,
I asked him to do it.
and then reviewed it after he had done it and approved it.
Yes.
Did you examine the contents of these subfiles?
No, I did not.
Have you ever examined the contents of all the loose documents that were in the bin?
In any detail, the only thing I've ever done with them was copy them as to reproduce them.
Okay. Would you take exhibit number 41, please, and tell me what that is?
Yes, one is an affidavit of Michael Ernest LeSueur and a statement from Jim Link, Sergeant Andy Colborn, a memo of the Stephen Avery reversal of conviction, a press release from Mark Rohr, and looks like a receipt from the Department of Justice, Deb Strauss, for 1 cassette recording.
What? That last item, that receipt from Deb Strauss, what's that all about? What is that all about?
I have no idea. It wasn't. You'd have to talk to the sheriff. It was made out to him.
All right. Would you work backwards in order and go to the next document, if you would? That is a press release issued by Mark Rohr, is that right?
Yes.
Was that provided by Mr. Rohr to the sheriff?
It must have been. This is the sheriff's documents here.
That was actually, you anticipate me, Exhibit 41 was put together by whom?
I asked for this documentation, if there was any further documentation involving Steve Avery. You know, I have to comply with your request. He produced this out of his personal safe in his office.
Oh, God. And he is who?
Dun, da, da, da. Sorry. Sheriff Peterson. I'm sorry.
All right. Would you go to the next document up, please? What's the date on that document?
September 12th.
And what is that document?
It's addressed to all department personnel, reference Steve Avery, stating that, quote, employees shall make no comments concerning Stephen Avery case. All news releases shall be issued by either the sheriff or Inspector Herman, not Harmon, end quote.
Now, the sheriff prepared that memorandum,
It appears to be, yeah.
and was it for distribution throughout the department?
Yes.
Were you consulted at all by this sheriff, or did you have any conversation with him about doing that at the time that that exhibit was prepared?
No, I did not.
All right. What's the next document up on the file?
It's a statement from Sergeant Andrew Colburn.
Yeah. What's that about?
In 1990, it was a statement of him, 94, 95. Quote, I was working as a corrections officer in the Manitowoc County Jail. I recall receiving a phone call from Central Control Area from an individual identifying self as a detective employed by an agency outside of the Manitowoc County area. This detective stated that he had received
Look, you don't have
close
to read the
quote.
whole thing. I'm just asking if you know what it is.
I have no idea what it is.
All right. That's all I was asking.
Without reading it,
Does it have a date on it?
looks like September 12th, 2003.
Okay. And what's the next document up?
It's a statement from Jim Link. Same date, 9/12 of 03.
And it relates to the prior document as well?
I don't know without reading it. I haven't read this.
Well, take a moment and read it if you would.
Oh, I don't know what the first one is.
I can shorten this up. The length statement bears what date?
9/12 of 03.
My question to you is, do you know whether or not the length statement and the Sergeant Colburn, was it Colburn? Is the sergeant
Mm-hmm.
statement bear any relationship to the press release statement? They all appear to me to be dated September 12th.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Who would know that? The sheriff?
This is the sheriff's documents, yeah. He would know.
Okay. And then what's the top document?
An affidavit of Michael Ernest LeSueur.
You know anything about that?
No, I do not.
And there's a note attached to that top document. Is that a note from, to your knowledge, is it a note from Ms. Beardson to the sheriff?
Looks like it was addressed to Sheriff Kasurik.
Okay. And Exhibit 41 was provided to you when, in response to Mr. Avery's request for production of documents, you asked Sheriff Peterson whether he had any further documents. Is that correct?
As a response to your request.
Right.
Then I asked if he had any documents concerning Stephen Avery. Yes.
Okay. would you take Exhibit 42, please, and tell me what that is?
I'm just going to pause for a second. I want to know, who is LeSueur? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Mm-mm.
I don't know
It's
who
an
it is either.
affidavit.
Doesn't ring a bell for me.
Oh.
The only thing I
Okay.
can think of without knowing for sure is, do you remember when Penny Burnson was going around educating sexual assault offenders about sexual
Yeah.
assault? Do you remember the
Yeah.
snitch that said that Stephen confessed to him, and she wrote about it in a letter, and the sheriff had it in the safe? Do you remember how Penny? Do y'all know what I'm talking about? There was supposedly Penny Burnson told, and she made like this little snide, smirky comment about, we'll just keep that to ourselves for now. That a inmate came up to her while she was doing these, and I still to this day cannot rationalize a victim of sexual assault going into a room of offenders convicted of sexual assault and anyone thinking that any good is going to come from that. But whatever.
That is really puzzling, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and only someone. Yeah, that's just diabolical. But so Penny claimed that an inmate came up to her and said that Stephen had confessed to that crime to them, and I think that might be him, but I'm not sure. I think this is the guy who claimed Stephen confessed, and there was a letter
Oh,
of him in the safe along with Penny's letter, and then the other items. Another thing, I've never heard that name Kathy List before. Have y'all?
mm-mm.
She was like,
Uh-uh.
No, never heard of it.
yeah, I tagged Jinx in a comment. I'm just curious what we know about her as well, because that's a new name for me too.
Yeah, it's a new one. That's a new one in my book.
Yeah. So this is like these depositions, man, they're amazing.
The gift that keeps on giving.
We need Kelly's file.
Yeah, that I think that this is probably a brilliant idea because, you know, we've said this before. The more data that we have, the more these start to make sense, right? Because we have a better grasp of what people were doing, what they had, what responsibilities they had, who they were in relation to others. And it just allows you, you know, it just allows you a better grasp of the whole entire, just this bogus case. It's so sad.
True dat.
All right, ladies, continue on.
Let's start back on 11. Shall
On
we?
11? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to scroll up and I can't because it's not me. Can you scroll back down?
Sorry. Yep, I did. Yep, I scrolled. Yep.
Okay. Okay, would you take Exhibit 42, please, and tell me what that is?
I have no idea where this stuff came from. I believe this stuff was also with the sheriff.
All right.
So this would be his. I believe this would be his part of this documents.
And there's documents in there, copies of a report issued by the Attorney General that were provided to the sheriff, as far as you can tell, by Peg Luxler
Yes.
when she issued her report. There is then at that bottom of that pile, there's a group of documents that have a paperclip on them. And would you take a moment and look at those? Have you seen those documents before?
At the incident report. Some of these other ones I have not seen. The criminal complaint I never saw. Some of the photographs I've seen here or there.
And what's the cover sheet indicate to you?
It looks like a document that was faxed from the court counsel's office to Rachel at TV5.
Did you prepare that group of materials for the sheriff?
I don't remember preparing it.
You'll notice that a number of those reports have names blacked out on them. With what looks like to have been a magic marker. Do you see that?
Correct.
Did you do that?
I don't believe I did. I believe this was probably done by the court counsel.
What's the date on that cover sheet?
9/11/03.
So that's the day after Mr. Avery was released, right?
I don't know when he was released. Was it the 10th?
Did you have any discussion with the sheriff about providing these materials to the media at that time?
No, did not.
All right. There's a pile of documents here marked with Exhibit 43. Mr. Beck, would you take those and tell me what that particular group of documents represents?
This was in response to your request for information concerning Greg Allen. These were the documents that we had, with the exception of 2 documents. One was a citation, which we wouldn't have, from 1989, and I could not locate a transport from 1987, a prison transport on Mr. Allen.
So to determine the universe of records that you had concerning Gregory Allen, you went to the top document, which is the printout sheet, right?
That's of his record, sure.
All right. Tell us what that is and how that system works in your department.
When we do a search of an individual, a total search of an individual, we need the name and the date of birth. Without the date of birth, it's difficult to do a search, but here we have Greg Allen's name and date of birth. We share a system with the city of Manitowoc, so anything that's on this document marked M is the city of Manitowoc's documents. Anything with S on it is the sheriff's department. All the old system would do was give us a summary of what a date, an incident number, a date, if it was disposed of, and it would put a brief description of what it was about.
And you say, quote, all the old systems would do, end quote. Are you contrasting that with the new system?
Yeah.
Well, with respect to the document that you're holding, that first sheet, is that printout of Gregory Allen information received from the old system or the new system or both?
From the old system. There's nothing in the new system.
When was the change made from the old system to the new system?
Last month.
When was that top sheet of what's that exhibit number?
43.
When was that top sheet printed out?
June 17th.
Before or after the implementation of the new system?
This would have been after.
So when you went to the new system, you retained the old system in its original form?
Yes.
And that still exists down to today?
It's an archive system now. Yes.
But you intend to keep it?
Yes.
For purposes of retrieving records that exist prior to the implementation of the new system?
Correct.
How in the past, that is to say prior to 2003, were all incidences concerning a particular individual fed into the system in the first place to allow a document such as the top sheet on Exhibit 43 to be printed out?
Repeat the question.
Sure. As I understand it, if you look at the top sheet of Exhibit 43, it gives you a list of everything in the old system concerning Gregory Allen because you had both his name and his date of birth, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. How did that information get into the new system in the first place?
Get into the system in the first place. It could be done a couple different ways. One would be if the call comes into dispatch via the 911 lines or our administrative lines. We would automatically start an incident if an officer is assigned to it. The second way it would come in is if an officer requested an incident started. Either way, an incident has to be requested to be started. If it comes into dispatch, it's automatic. If an officer comes across something, he would initiate the incident report. He would start it. Excuse me. But that's how it gets onto here. The document would be this document in dispatch. They would write in or type in the information, and this is the information that's on this document here.
All right. You made reference to the city. The city of Manitowoc's information concerning any particular incident was not always part of the old Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department system, was it?
Since 1980, it was part of our system.
Well, let's go through that then. If there was an incident that occurred in 1984, let's say, with respect to Gregory Allen, in which the City of Manitowoc Police Department dispatcher got a report, are you telling us that that would feed into your system at that time?
It would not feed into our system. It would feed into a joint system.
And that joint system is the system represented by the top sheet on Exhibit 43?
That's correct.
And your best recollection is the joint system existed in from 1980 on.
I don't know the exact switch on date, but 1980 would be, I believe that was the date it was started. Yes.
Are you confident that the switch on date was at some time after January 1st of 1983?
We were on the system in
Well, before January 1st of 1983.
I believe it was 1980 is when we switched over to this joint system.
Okay, but what I'm trying to pin down is you seem hesitant about whether it was exactly 1980. I just want to make sure you're saying that as of January 1st, 1983, there's no doubt that there was this joint system.
Correct.
All right.
Let's pause right here just for a second because I think I may see the road he's traveling down here. Christina, do you see it or not?
I don't know. What do you see? And I'll tell you if it's what I see.
Well, it's driving to the point of it's driving to the point that if they're on a shared system, there's a sharing of information between the city and the county. They would have known about Gregory Allen. That's what I see.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's not only the shared system. We know that. So it's interesting that he's getting him to corroborate that. Any person arrested in Manitowoc County, because remember, they're trying to say that all of Gregory Allen's crimes prior to the ones committed after Stephen Avery that involved, like targeting women, were arrests made by agencies other than Manitowoc County, right? But all of those agencies, being the police department, Two Rivers, whatever, the constable's office, they still booked his ass where?
Manitowoc County. That's right.
That's right. So I didn't know they had a shared system. So good call.
See, I didn't either. This is, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure I read this, but again, I can talk smarter about this case now than I could, 4 years ago or whenever the hell we got these.
So then explain in Lautenschlager's report why it said it was just a matter of not communicating with each other.
That's because it was a big fucking lie. Pardon my friend.
The police department, the sheriff's department. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's funny you bring up her because I made a comment on Reddit today. That someone's trying to claim that they still think there's a chance Brendan can be guilty. And I'm like, look, if you're really trying to find the truth in this case, you need to look at how the attorney generals have conducted themselves from the time Stephen Avery was exonerated in 2003. There was no effort made to find the truth in this case we're discussing right now. And then when he was rearrested, they buried what was done here. They didn't try and make sure it wouldn't happen again. Instead, they did an even worse frame up, more obvious. And now they're just like, nana, nana, boo, boo, what you gonna do about it? And it makes me so frigging angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been on Reddit really to really read much in the last few days. I can't remember the last bit one I got into an argument with about something that they were just completely wrong about. I don't know what it was. Somebody had made a post, and that AJSWJD or whatever is just letters. I know you've seen them around. They've been around for a long time.
Yeah, I think he's a DA. Like, in the back of my mind, I think he's like an ADA or an AAG, because I think he just intentionally uses this case to try and polish I can make an argument and sound good no matter how bad the case is.
Yeah, but a lot of times they sound terrible. And I think to myself, did you really read that? And have you read the rest of the case? It's just like.
And the thing of it is that, like, I remember when I first started looking into this case, it was like 1985. Oh my goodness. No, it was not. It was like 2018. And for like the first year, I used to fall for the guilt trap comments, right? And I would think, oh, I can reason them into looking further. Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, these are the most closed, and you cannot be that closed-minded unless you're intentionally being closed-minded.
Yeah, it's intentional. Case. It's totally intentional.
Yeah, because if you're truly looking for the truth in this case, and you're talking to any of us who have been around for a couple of years now, we're going to provide you the documents and the evidence to show you this is why we're so adamant that these guys are framed. And your only excuse to not believing what we say, when your only excuse is, well, that's not what the court record says, then I know you're not after the truth. You're only after, protecting the win, which tells me you don't give a shit about justice. So,
yeah.
And, and that's why this criminal justice system in America is in the dumps today, right? Because it's been filled with employees who only care about winning and don't care about the human lives that are being sacrificed, ruined, and destroyed in the process. And I just can't live like that. And I think that's why we have such a great community, because we're people who actually give a shit. Excuse my French. Obviously,
Well,
someone's because we cuss,
well,
but I'd be more angry at people who allow these kinds of things to occur than people who say curse words. Just a thought. No hate.
well, that goes back to, I'll just discuss just a tiny bit, how polarizing stuff like this is, because you have so many people, thousands and thousands of people, they read the headline and they believe what they've read, and the cops wouldn't do this, and yada yada, no matter what. And then even when you throw stuff in their people's faces, they're like, "Well, you just made shit up. That's not true. That didn't happen." So they they complain about a documentary like, "Ma'am, even though the state refused to participate, they did provide the other side. They did." Was it a completely balanced documentary? No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Because, and I know you're saying that, Jax, because you're trying to be the impartial person, but there are too many people who walked away from the documentary not knowing if Stephen Avery was guilty, and
The reason, actually, the real reason I say that is because the state didn't actively participate. They didn't accept that role. Yeah, I mean, in the end, they did show elements from both sides. They did. The difference being is that
it was a very large part of the documentary.
It was. There's no doubt about it. And, this goes into a lot of the Coburn v. Netflix lawsuit, that you can specifically really open your eyes and look at, they did show X, Y, and Z. Coburn denying that he was behind the RAV when he read off the plate number when he called dispatch, and other things that got denied throughout the case, even though they had to take snippets from here and there to get it in. They did it. So from that aspect, I agree. And I didn't know about Stephen Avery when I first watched the documentary. I wasn't sure. I was sure about Brendan. I was sure that kid got screwed. I wasn't sure about Avery. Didn't know anything about the case at all. But I did walk away feeling that they had just absolutely robbed due process out of both of them completely. And I don't know if that was an intentional feeling or if that's just how it came across when it was all said and done for me personally.
I don't think anyone can actually deny that Stephen and Brendan did not get a fair trial, right? I mean, even the guilters have to admit that
some of them will,
that what Kratz, Gahn, and Fallon did was, intentional, and it definitely polarized the jury. But, I just thought of something, and y'all have to forgive me because I had brain surgery and, so I don't think like most people. But this intentional, like targeting that has been done of Colburn by the guilters, like poor Colburn. Because, in reality, when I watched the documentary, I didn't single Andrew Colburn out.
Neither did I.
The bad guy.
Me either.
Okay. Mm-mm. So I'm watching how in Beck's deposition, how Link has been inserted into an investigation that he played no role in, as has Colburn. Did someone kind of on the state of Wisconsin side, did someone decide to try and play a little bit of, hey, look over here, and hope that we would focus on them does like sacrificing the pawns like in a chess game? And even when we didn't bite at that, is that kind of like why Colburn's lawsuit was filed? Like, did someone decide to feed his low IQ paranoia that people are now out to get me, to get him to bring even more focus on him? Because someone said the other day or somewhere, like, Colburn would be the last person that you would have involved in framing a guy because he's an idiot. All right. He's just not very bright. And I think they're right.
Good at following orders, so.
Yeah, he's good at following orders, but he's not he's good at following orders, but he's like, what's the dude's name in Andy Griffith's?
Bonafide.
Yeah, he's kind of
Bonafide.
So you can have him. He's dirty enough where you know he's going to go along to get along because he wants to fit in. He wants to be one of the cool kids. But how much are you really going to trust this guy with? You know, like, yeah, I'll have him deliver the package, but I'm not going to tell him what's in it. And I'm not going to tell him why I'm having him do it because, one, he's not going to remember all that information and he'll end up going to the wrong place. But two, he's just animalistic enough where he might try and use, I'm running packages for the boss to get in bed with the bartender. Do y'all know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, about the lawsuit, and we haven't heard from Doc. I don't know if he can talk right now. He may have stepped away, but as I've thought about it more and more as we've read through hundreds of pages of documents that we've covered in the last 4 or 5 months, especially, but we covered some obviously prior, but especially the last 4 or 5 months. And as I've thought about this and the timing, we have to remember that Coburn started trying to get a lawyer, I think January 8th or 9th, somewhere in that neighborhood of 2016, roughly 2 weeks after the series aired. He swears he didn't watch it. 30 minutes is all he watched. But then I think about, let's move forward. It took him all the way from that time, January of 2016, until October or November of 2018, before Griesbach jumped out of his ADA role at Manitowoc, took the case. He's never filed a civil lawsuit in his life. He's late getting it in because he says he can't find his way around the system to get it filed properly. They let him in, let him have it anyway, even though they were like a day late. Didn't call his brother, which is a federal judge, to get some help. And then we add into this mix convicting a murderer. What happened? I promise you something happened behind the scenes that we've not yet seen between some various people.
3 years.
Well, basically, yeah. 2016 till, it was almost 3 years before Griesbach took the case. Somebody had to file it or he was going to be SOL because the statute of limitations ran out.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I just see timing as, and of course, Kathleen was busy filing different various motions and so forth. To me, this is almost like a distraction, right? I mean, to me, I'm not saying that that's totally what it is, but go ahead.
Or we've discussed this before. It's an intentional move to try and keep this case relevant for the for convicting. But here's the thing. Who's ballsy enough to knowingly convict a guy wrongfully and his nephew wrongfully, and then think that they can be part of a quote counter documentary and it not blow up in their faces. I mean, that's the thing that gets me. It takes, you either got to be completely reckless, like Bonnie and Clyde reckless, or you've got to know that no matter what, you're not going to go to prison, and you're not going to lose what you have if the truth comes out.
Well, you know, that's the world it seems to be that we're living in, right?
Yeah,
no fucking consequences. Pardon my French.
I know, but we see these token guys that look untouchable. They're being brought down. They're getting canceled all the time. So what gives these guys, this particular set of not very bright, not very wealthy? I mean, Vogel's wealthy. I mean, he's got old money on his wife's side, for sure. You know, they're part of the aluminum foundries that pretty much built Manitowoc manufacturing industry. But other than him, the rest of them are really nobody.
Oh, and they're staying away from it too.
Yeah. And so it's just like, what gives, you either got brass balls or no brains. That's all I.
Well, you know, that goes back to, you know, how who gaslit him to such a degree back in real time after the documentary was released that he would do this. You know, I don't know. There's just a lot of shit going on that I know that we haven't seen yet. So,
and there's, like if we ever find the truth in this case, I believe that, I think we're all still going to be friggin' shell shocked about, even after all of our
so do I.
like musings. I think the truth is really going to rock.
If we ever find out what the actual truth really is, I think it will be something that we've never seen and never talked about, or maybe there may be a name or two that may be associated, but I think it's going to be something completely different than what we think.
When I was listening to, before I had to leave last night in the middle of RWCC, which was amazing, when I was listening to Teresa's friend, I'm going to use Dvorak's language, the verbiage he used, saying that the picture he painted, that someone who knows, in my opinion, this is my opinion, not foul play, Sunshine Christina's opinion, that's someone who knows his friend didn't die like that.
Yeah, it was an interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Narrative. Yeah, I do. It was an interesting narrative he gave.
I don't agree with that, but
you don't agree.
I don't think that guy had a clue what happened.
No, I don't think. I don't think he knew either. I just think it was an interesting narrative of how he said.
I don't think he knows what happened, but I think he knows for sure his friend didn't die that way.
Yeah.
Is that fair, Susan? Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with you, but that's okay.
Okay. No. That's good, because I want to know. Because
I think it's just an expression that people use.
Yeah,
you
but
know, about what's
it
something
is.
that's been said. He painted a picture. And he did paint a picture, a very detailed picture.
Right. It's not something that someone says about how someone they were very close to died. That's the thing. It is an expression people use. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But now we've got to look at it. This was allegedly a girl that he had known for many years, that he had a bond with, right? That's what we're supposed to believe. And he is being asked, what do you think hearing about how she was murdered. What do you think about that? And his answer to that wasn't, I can't believe my friend died such a brutal, tragic, horrific death. Or I can't believe these two monsters did that to my friend. His answer was, that was a pretty graphic picture that he painted. That is an emotional reaction. That is a carefully crafted response trying to invoke emotion from those who hear it without confirming or denying what was said was accurate, in my opinion. And maybe
I just think you're reading too much into it.
my
That's
husband
my opinion.
says that.
Christina?
My husband says that. My husband says that to me about everything. So
I don't necessarily agree with you, Christina, on the basis that he said that because he knows something different. But what I will say is there was a case here in the UK, and it was two young girls that went missing and been murdered by their school caretaker at their school. And he was on all the news channels, he was making statements, he was pleading for them to come home, everything like that. And his girlfriend was their teaching assistant. And she was on an interview, and when she was speaking about the girls, she was holding up a picture and she used their names in past tense. You know, she was like, they were lovely girls, and things like that. And believe it or not, because of that, the way she spoke about them in the past tense, it then led them to the caretaker of the school, who actually murdered one of the girls and tried to say that he got scared, she fell and she hurt herself, so he took her into her house and she slipped in the bath and everything like that, and he ended up getting convicted because of that, because they kind of followed on for what she said. And it was actually the media, and I don't like giving media any credit or anything like that, but it was actually the media that picked up on her speaking of the girls in the past tense, and then the police led with that as well, and then that's when they found it and came to the conclusion, and the evidence pointed to the school caretaker. So I can see where you're trying to go with what he was saying, but I think he was just meaning that what Kratz said in that press conference, he painted a pretty awful picture of what happened to Reza. And like we've said before, when people see things like that in headlines or on the news or anything like that, they seem to believe it, you know, that it's utter fact.
Why would this prosecutor get up and tell a bunch of fucking lies to us, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I can see where you're sort of coming from on that side, but I don't necessarily agree with him actually knowing anything.
And I don't think he knows anything like for verbatim beyond the fact that that's not what happened, right?
Yeah.
He may just know enough, like, because he's college educated, he may be hip enough to recognize that this was just too wrapped up in a bow, right? He may not know exactly what happened to Teresa. He just knows that the fact that a guy who was being sued, or that was suing Manitowoc County for $36 million would never, you know, like that. This is just ridiculous. That may be as far as he's willing to go with it. I just think that that comment was his way of, and we got to remember now, he's also the only guy that went on record from Teresa's side saying anything at all. And I also find that interesting. So, but I don't know. It's just such an odd way to craft a statement about your friend's death. Do I think he killed her? Hell no, not at all. But I think that he knows that these guys were set up.
Interesting.
I think he feels that Stephen Avery is right where he belongs, and Brendan. I think he believes in both their guilt.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to it. Hey, before I do that, I want to say hello to our William. He's joined us, and Ronald Cat. Did I miss anyone? I think that's the last two I saw.
Ronald's been here for a little while.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, well, I just was scrolling through the chat there, but yeah.
Yeah, Paul Ward's joined us as well. Hi, Paul. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks for catching that, Alice. All right, let's get back to it. I think we're on line 17, so let's jump back in.
Yes. All right. So if there were incidences known to the City of Manitowoc Police Department involving the same Gregory Allen, the same date of birth, same guy that took place in 1983, 84, or 1985, as far as you're concerned, they should be included on that list that is the top page of Exhibit 43.
If an incident was started, it should be on there.
All right. Do you know whether or not there were incidences involving Gregory Allen started by the City of Manitowoc Police Department? I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, or can you not see it?
Am I lagging?
You're lagging.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, it's on page.
Okay. I see it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I had somehow got back. I don't know. Doesn't matter. In 1983, 1984, and 1985.
Well, I think you're going to have to check with the city on their documents. But looking back on the printout, we have activity here from 1983, 84, and 85.
So if at that time that Penny Berntsen was assaulted, law enforcement officers from the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department wanted to know about incident reports concerning Gregory Allen, they could go to this system and pull up the information with confidence that any incidences reported by either the City of Manitowoc or the Sheriff's Department would be on that listing.
Yes.
Now, if in turn such a law enforcement officer wanted to go and find the underlying incident reports like you did for this production, if it was in the Sheriff's Department, you'd simply go and retrieve it and retrieve that file.
That's correct.
And you would retrieve it under the incident report number that you've already told us about that represents that particular case?
Yes.
All right. What about if somebody in the Sheriff's Department wanted to go and retrieve an incident report that was reported to the joint system by the City of Manitowoc Police Department? How would you get those records?
We'd have to request it.
Okay. Do you have any knowledge about whether any request was made concerning Gregory Allen at or after the time of the Penny Berntsen assault?
No, I have not.
Who would know about that, do you think?
I would imagine anybody who was working on the case.
So Sheriff Kasurik for sure, huh?
He'd be the main person I'd check with, yes.
Okay. You testified earlier that on exhibit number 43, the M and the M for City of Manitowoc and the S for Sheriff indicated the different sources for the incident reports. Is that right?
Correct.
Did that designation exist in the old system?
This is the old system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Well, let's be specific. All right. And does it still exist in the new system?
I don't know exactly how. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't feel comfortable testifying to how it is, but they are separate. But the summaries, I believe, are viewable, same as they are here.
So let me just ask. Let's posit a July 2005 crime under the new system. And let's say that there's a detective in the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department who's pursuing John Smith with respect to this particular incident. Can that detective go to the new system and find incident reports concerning John Smith in the past that come from the city as well as from the county?
Yes, I believe so. Like I say, the system is a little over 30 days old, so I'm not too sure exactly how or that is what they call a global jacket information on each individual that's in there. But then each department, I believe, is broken down into a category where you can get similar information, which is a summary, such as the old system. We still can't review their narratives, and they can't review our narratives. So we'd have to go to them to get the report, same as we're doing now. But we should be able to review or view.
So under the old system, if, for example, somebody in the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department wanted to check out Gregory Allen, given the printout that's represented on the first page of Exhibit 43, to get the narrative, they'd have to go to the city department and say, listen, we're interested in Gregory Allen and these 4 incidents. Can we look at your narratives? Is that how that would work?
Under the old system,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. You made a comment some time ago in your testimony that there were 1 or 2 incident reports missing with respect to the Stephen Avery case. Do you remember that?
I said there were a couple missing on Greg Allen.
You did. You gave 2 exceptions for Greg Allen, and 89 exception and a transport from 87. But earlier in your testimony, you said with respect to the Stephen Avery case that there were 1 or 2 incidents missing when you went about gathering. I think it's the documents that are in, I think it was Exhibit 40A, but I'm not sure.
So the record's clear. I'm not stipulating that or agreeing by my silence that is what the record reflects as far as his testimony.
All right, but that's what I remember.
Oh, I remember what you're saying. Give me a moment. You're talking about the first one here. When you gave me this one here, you asked me if this was I believe you asked me if this was the complete, if there's something missing.
All right.
Yes, there was something missing, which is this stuff here. There. Now it's complete.
Okay, let's go off record for a moment.
Reporter off
Because
the
you're being a jerk. Sorry.
reporter off record for looks like not even a minute. Back on the record.
Would you take exhibit? I think we should be at exhibit 44, please. And take a moment and examine that and tell me what that is.
These are the original jail booking photos for Steve Avery and Greg Allen.
All right. I'm going to ask you to look at the Stephen Avery booking photos, if you would, and tell me how many of them there are.
There's 3.
Okay. And can you tell from examining them what their respective dates are?
The first one, no. The second one is 7/30 of 85, and the third one is 5/20 of 86.
Could I see that for a moment?
Yeah,
I am going to show you the 2 that you've been able to identify by date. That one is what date, please?
7/30/85.
All right. And then this one is what date?
5/20 of 86.
Is there a practice in the jail with respect to booking photographs that when a later photograph is taken, the earlier photograph is disposed of?
That you'd have to check with the jail. I don't know.
If you would take a look at the photograph, the third photograph, booking photo of Stephen Avery, it appears to me, especially if you look at the left photo, that it's dated 1/3/85.
Ring, 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 ring.
Okay.
Could be.
Okay.
Let me get the phone.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Off the record from 10:24 to 10:32. That was a hell of a call.
8 minutes.
8 minutes. Jesus Christ.
Oh,
You having a baby?
Yeah.
What's the date of this again?
July, what was it, Jack?
Which?
July 13th.
Okay.
05.
So 6 weeks after they took Gregory Allen's DNA to match with the Minnesota case.
Yeah, this is Beck getting the phone call, though.
Yeah, it is. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He should not be allowed to have his phone while he is on the witness stand.
Agreed.
Bad
Well, you
boy.
can have it, but you better turn it off or take
Gotta
the
be on
battery out.
silent.
Yeah, you're damn right. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I think I asked you whether or not the date on the photo looked to be 1/3/85.
It's possible. I don't know. You've got better eyes than I got, but it could be an 8, could be 85.
Okay. And there's a written statement on the back of that particular photo, right?
Yes.
And what's it say?
Oh my God. Keep this photo. Tom Kasurik. Save.
Well, now
End
isn't that
quote.
just interesting as hell?
Wow.
Interesting.
Huh?
Wow.
We're all
Wow.
flabbergasted.
That's a
Oh
that's
my
a
God.
that's a
It's a
little
nugget.
that is a wow moment because I'm sure I've read this, but
I don't remember ever hearing that.
Me either.
Damn.
Wow.
I'd sure like to have a photocopy of that, Christina. Front and
I
back.
have a list. I have a running list. Interesting
Nuggets.
little tidbit from this deposition that's going into a records request. You know it. Wow.
FOIA.
I really would like to have a front and back photocopy of that, even if it's a kind of a shitty copy. That's really interesting. Keep this photo, Tom
Wow.
Kasurik.
No
Save.
kidding.
Yeah.
Case 10's
Wow.
asking what photo. It was his mugshot, wasn't it?
Yeah, booking photo.
Yes.
From January
Booking
3rd of
photo from
1985.
the
But the one from January.
it's the
Yeah.
Sandra Morris incident.
Yep.
The
Yes.
one that Couché copied.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
The tracing.
That's
Tracing.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Woo. I sure do like Mr.
Interesting.
Kelly. Hi, Kay. Sorry.
Hey, Kay.
I just saw her pop in.
Hi, Kay.
I did too. Hey,
Hey,
you can
Kay,
come.
Katie.
You can come on. You can come into the Discord if you want. If you want to talk, comment, whatever. You're certainly invited.
Yeah, we had some union talk a little while ago that would have been really helpful to have you here with, but it's okay. We're done now. Or you can come in and talk about it anyway.
There you go.
Anyway, that's some crazy shit right there. And I am not apologizing for that.
All right.
Wow.
Let's move on.
Wow.
Line 11. Okay. Okay, now there's also included in that particular exhibit 44 a booking photograph of Greg Allen. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what does that information reveal as to the date of that photo?
It's got an arrest date of March 11th, 1984.
And what does that information reveal as to the date of that photo? Oh, I said that.
What? Did I
Sorry.
miss something?
Sorry.
Yeah, you
No,
need to
I'm
reread line 18.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just still reeling from that other comment. It's crazy. Um, what has an arrest date of March 11th, 1984?
Well, I'm looking at the date on the card here. And then on the top card, it was a 3/11/84 arrest date. And on the photo, it's 3/24/87.
All
Wow.
right.
That,
They're
can I
so
just,
good.
What?
can
Doc,
I just make
Oh,
please.
Doc here.
that you've just discovered the most important thing in this entire deposition. They swapped the photos.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, and it goes to show that for Stephen, they had the two arrest photos, the Sandra Morris one, and also when he got arrested with the Penny Bernstein one, right? And so the dates matched up, and the mere fact that on the earlier photograph it said save, that's, if I'm correct here, that's exactly what Couchet traced, right?
Yes.
And what is interesting here,
Mhm.
and the giveaway, the mere fact that you've got the arrest record of Gregory Allen and a different date photograph goes to show that they never would have wanted to have Gregory Allen's earlier arrest photo, who looked more like the attacker of Penny Bernstein rather than the photograph in 87. Boom, you've got it right there.
In other words, what it shows is an intentional and deliberate attempt to minimize the ability for the victim to identify the real assailant and to maximize the identity of someone they wanted identified who didn't assail her. And then it shows a deliberate attempt to hide what they did.
That's
So it
what you're
shows-
seeing.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry, Chris. What you're seeing is corruption at work, in black and white and on paper.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep.
Yep.
Boom. You got
Right
it
there.
right there. And
Gotcha.
all of this, guess what would have happened? All of this would have been presented to Kacerik and Vogel, and of course we know what happened to Stephen. So as Big Jeff used to say, you needed a big whopper to stop all of this. This was mega damaging. You can see what they did. They made sure that Gregory Allen's arrest photo back in 84 was not available for viewing.
That's right.
Right? So
Yep.
hence, you have deliberate targeting by law enforcement to bamboozle Penny Bernstein deliberately. Right there.
Yep.
It
That's
shows
That's exactly right, Doc.
And it's an intentional framing of an innocent guy for a crime they knew he didn't commit in 1985. So then you have to extrapolate, right? You have to say, well, if they did that in 85 and they got caught for it and they were being exposed for it in 2003, what would they do? What were they willing to do to keep from being held accountable for that?
Yeah, and getting their pantsuit off. Right?
No, and not just their pantsuit off, potentially facing criminal charges.
Yeah, there's definitely
This
that
is a
potential.
criminal act. Let's be clear here. What they did was not a lazy cop's job. Or
No, this is evidence. This is evidence tampering. For sure.
This is an
This is-
intentional decision to frame a guy they didn't like for a crime they knew he didn't commit.
Yeah.
That's what-
And
I'm going to
that's
say that Go ahead, Doug.
I was going to say that's why they went through what is the proper procedure, the record. It was beautifully done. What is the proper procedure when you're taking a photograph, and you use the current photo and the arrest date? That's standard procedure. And he also alluded to the fact that if the MTSO wanted to check the records regarding Gregory Allen, it should have all been there. So what has been done is he's laid down a beautiful roadmap of the proper procedure. And all of a sudden, and I'm sure Sunshine Christina would comment on it, all of a sudden, the most critical photo of Gregory Allen is now missing. His original one has been substituted with a 1987 one. No one can account for that unless it was deliberately substituted later on to conceal their tracks.
That's right.
I don't know how many people or how, Doc, I don't know how much you guys back in the day, and I'm talking a few years ago, back before I joined Foul Play, looked for this original booking photo, but I can tell you that from my little corner of the world and the people that I talked to, I know that we looked hard to try to find this photo, and it's not available. It's not there. It's
It
gone.
doesn't exist.
And
Can disappear.
and
Well,
go ahead.
No, I just said it's been disappeared.
I'm going to speculate, and it goes along with my theory, that this was all done before Penny was ever attacked.
Everest, yeah.
Kasurik went into the file. He saw that Stephen Avery's January photo looked a lot more like Greg Allen at the time of the rape. He took out Gregory Allen's photo from March 11th, 84, so that he wouldn't be put in a lineup or a photo comparison
It's
or
very
anything
possible.
like that.
It's very possible, Susan.
Yeah.
That's
Susan,
my
you
theory.
always have really good
Just
theories, though.
speculation.
Well,
What?
You
remember,
always have good theories.
Yes, she does.
this now this now actually makes a lot of sense, because remember what happened that night. They made a request. I'm not sure whether it was Kasurik who made a request to the jailer to bring down a whole bunch of photographs.
It was Kasurik. Remember, it was
Yep.
what the hell was his name? Come on, help.
I'm pretty sure, but I'm not. I can't confirm it that it was Sandra Morris's husband.
I think it
Bill.
was. I think it was. That's
Yes,
right. That's right,
Yes,
Christine.
it was.
Was the
That's
book?
what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, Kasurik knew that Gregory Allen's recent arrest photo was not going to be in that pile, because had he put that photograph forward, I'll tell you what, Penny Bernstein, even though she had blackened eyes, would have said, "He's the one."
Yep.
Boom.
She would have picked him out. Yeah.
She would have picked him out right then.
Even
and
if
there.
it was right next to Stevens. Yeah.
Yep, no question about it. Because when Jean Couchet copied the picture, you could tell that he used the original arrest photo, because remember, Stephen hadn't been photographed yet because he hadn't been arrested for the Penny Bernstein, right?
That's right.
So
That's
the only
right.
photograph they had was the earlier arrest photograph. I
That's
tell
right.
you what, Kasurik didn't want to take the risk of using the original arrest photograph of Gregory Allen, because it would have been a dead set perfect match to the person who attacked Penny Bernstein. So now.
Yeah.
Doc, can you imagine Kelly getting him on the stand at this point, Kasurik, and nailing his ass?
He's gone. He's gone. So you think about it. This is not, as everyone has said, this is not a potential rookie mistake, an error. This is 100% deliberate evidence tampering in order to frame somebody and set somebody up. And that's why Gilters and that's why Mr. Kratz never wanted to talk about 1985. Because if they did it to him in 85, God damn it, they're going to do it to him in 2005. No problems
Yep.
whatsoever.
And anybody that
Yep.
doesn't think that the two cases are not joined at the hip, they're not reading all of it. They're just cutting it
Exactly.
completely off.
Yep.
They are connected.
And then
They see them as two completely separate cases, incidents, and everything.
Yep.
And they don't want to see it. They don't
No.
want to see the connections.
They don't.
yeah, one who doesn't see the connection is intentionally not doing so, right? And then we
Yeah, that's what
also,
I think.
yeah, and then we also have to add in the bizarreness that is the 95-96. I took a call, and then Jean Couché doing those rando detective
Interviews. Yep.
Yeah. We have the records request being made by, I think it was Kelly's, or it might have been Glenn, one of his attorneys, asking specifically for alternative suspects. So something triggered that, all of that. And so they would have reconfirmed that in 95-96, they went through an additional effort to cover up their wrongful conviction, right? Because they went and did the records request, and Gregory Allen was arrested for another, assault of a female. And in Manitowoc County, instead of saying anything like, well, maybe we need to reopen this case and make sure we got the right guy, instead they Stacy Seabrook said, we're going to double down. And they doubled down.
Behind the Magic says, yes, I always ask guilters why Gregory Allen's photo was not in the array. And they just say there were worse offenders, which is ridiculous, but this reason is worse. Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, and there wasn't worse offenders. Don't let them lie to you. Gregory Allen was in Manitowoc County at that time. This is why they won't give me the UCR reports from that time. Gregory Allen was the number one menace of Manitowoc County as far as women and young girls were concerned. Stephen Avery was just pissing all the cops off, who didn't give a shit about the women or the young girls.
Yeah, behind the Magic.
Gregory Allen was also Kasurik's, what do you call it, henchman.
I don't know, Susan.
Behind the Magic says, if I was Penny, I'd be pissed, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's
It's my opinion that Kasurik had her raped by Gregory Allen.
I'm gonna say I think that it was a setup. There's rumors from the locals, and they're confirmed locals. There's rumors from the locals because Penny Berntsen and Tom Kasurik were neighbors. Their children went to the same school. They went to the same church. And there's rumors that they had an affair and she broke it off. And he
retaliated.
He decided to get back at the woman who broke his heart or made him mad or busted his ego, whatever you want to call it, and also get rid of the local, ignorant kid who just got on his nerves. But that's what really, for me, when I learned that Berntsen and Kasurik were members of the same church and were neighbors and their kids went to school together, that's what said to me, and that Gregory Allen wasn't subsequently framed by Manitowoc County to make sure that other women weren't harmed by him.
Gregory Allen was protected. He was
right.
protected by Bogle and Kasurik.
No doubt. Absolutely.
And when I found out that
Kasurik knew the victim personally and didn't make sure that what happened to her didn't happen to another woman, I knew that he was a dirtbag. Because, and I've said this before, but I'm going to keep on saying it. She was beaten so bad that the surgeon they did like plastic surgery on her eyes. She couldn't see. She couldn't see the statement she signed. She had bruises around her throat. She was choked unconscious. And I'm going to stop right there, okay? Because anyone who has experience with violent assault, that's all you need to know. That is nothing to joke about. It's not a drunk bitch bar fight in the bathroom. This is like life or
Oh my
death.
God. I think we've all seen the photo of
Yeah.
Penny.
Oh yeah, he beat the tar out of her.
So,
I mean, it was horrific.
Yeah.
so Tom Kasurik
It was horrific. And
sat beside this woman in church, went to the bus stop with this woman or her husband, and was like shaking their hands saying, "We got the right guy," all the while knowing that what he had done, that the real guy doing this to women was free on the street. And he didn't make sure Gregory Allen couldn't keep doing this.
Well, that goes back to these reports that are talked about above. City and county shared reports. It was they could view it. So there's and plus all the other that we know that happened. Bergner went and talked to him and told him they were keeping an eye on this guy. He knew. He absolutely knew. But before we start back reading, I'm going to show this one more time of highlight. Keep this photo. Tom Kasurik. Save.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I also want to say that, maybe they had an affair and maybe they were just like some neighbors ended up hating each other for whatever stupid reason. I mean, a lot of neighbors kill their neighbors. It's just a fact.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, so it could have been something like that. They could have just hated each other for whatever reason.
Out of falling out.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I was an officer, all right, and I had a vendetta against a guy who had wronged one of my deputies' wives, okay, and I wanted to teach him a lesson, and I chose to use a violent sexual assault of a woman to teach him a lesson. If I was a good cop who cared about my community, I would still ensure that the guy who had actually hurt the woman I framed the guy for was not going to keep doing that to other innocent women. Remember now, Tom Kasurik was married to a woman and he had daughters.
Yeah, he's not a good guy.
I mean, you're
flag.
a man who viciously and violently assaulted a woman to stay free to do so. Even if you don't want to try and frame him, shoot him in the head and bury his ass so he doesn't keep doing it. That's
Vogel had let him off
multiple
on
times.
how many awful things?
Yes.
bunch.
And then he tried to, and then he said he had an alibi. He gave him an alibi when he didn't have one.
He wrote a letter to the Manitowoc police detectives trying to get them to think twice about saying it was.
Rethink.
Rethink that you saw him. These are
You sure it was Gregory Allen? Yeah.
These are men who do not value human life, do not value women's, vulnerability, and do not give a shit about justice. So Teresa,
They value power.
Yeah, that's it. Money and power. Teresa Halbach don't mean nothing to them, dead or alive. And that's what we recognize. Do I think they killed her? They would have. But
Yes, I do.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they would have. They wouldn't have thought twice about killing her to frame Stephen Avery.
You want to know something that's just like really striking to me right now is that we have two cases now where two female victims have still to this day not received justice. I mean, we know about Stephen and Brendan and we know where that is. But when you look beyond them, there are two women who were brutally victimized. Well, Teresa was murdered and has still to this day not received any justice whatsoever at all.
Justice.
Kay says, so how many
So,
awful things did Gregory Allen
yeah.
do in return for being let off the hook? Ugh,
Oh, God only knows.
we don't know.
He was caught on. What year did he go to prison, Christina?
96.
96. So that's
Yeah,
11 years. I don't know if he might have been in and out. I don't know.
Sorry, I'm muted. I'm steady talking, but I was muted. I was wondering why y'all weren't listening to me. 1987, he went for the dressing room peeping Tom thing, where he assaulted the off-duty cop who was a security officer. But what was it? Oh, there was something I was going to say. Oh, what I was going to say is, you wonder why they use the victims' crime board. What is it? Victims' right board as a joke. This is why, right? They don't give a shit about victims. They don't give a shit about. They don't give a shit about those.
Look what Kratz did to him. Jesus.
Yeah.
and he's a prosecutor.
And look at how he was punished. That's what says everything to me. None of Wisconsin, none of them, female or male, in positions to affect change and seek justice, actually give a shit about doing either. Because think about how Judge Sucks at this, made light of the documentary, Stephen and Brendan's case, Teresa's death, and her emails. I want Sandra Bullock to play me. Are you serious, woman? You know who should play you? Rosie O'Donnell. When she was heavy. Yeah.
Kay, talking about Gregory Allen, we'll get back to the document, but just briefly, as much research as Christina, Seeking Truth, and others have done on Allen, honestly, I certainly feel like he's probably got some real skeletons in his closet that we don't know about, that they never caught him for, never pinned on him.
And when he finally did get caught, it was not in Wisconsin. It was in Minnesota. When he finally got a long sentence.
Yeah, I mean, here the guy was a cop here who is gone up in court for assaults that he's done, and there was multiple reports on him for misconduct and everything like that, and the Met office just swept it under the carpet. But he's now been caught, and he's gone to court, and he'll get sent down. He will get sent down, and I think there's like 50 allegations, or something like that, against this copper, and the Met office has came out and said that they cannot be sure that a sexual assault victim will not be questioned by a police officer who is under investigation. So, I mean, shit like that is happening here as well, with cops doing stuff for like covering things up and everything like that, because I mean, 50 allegations against this one cop. How many other allegations have been put forward that that haven't been followed through? So it's ridiculous that cops can get away with doing stuff like that. Cops or lawyers can get away with covering things up like that. I mean, especially hiding photographs, because Gregory Allen should have been in that array or the lineup for Penny Bernstein.
Absolutely.
And I guarantee you, she would have picked out, if you had Stephen at one end and Alan at the other end, she would have picked out Alan, not Stephen, you know. And for them to do the cover up with the way they've done with hiding the photo and everything like that, and nothing's been done to them or is going to get done to them, that's why I'm glad in a way that over here, if a cop gets thingied for misconduct, then that's it. He loses his fucking job. He loses his benefits. He loses his pension. He actually gets sent to jail, you know, for misconduct that he's done. And they will not get another job in any police force in the UK whatsoever, you know. And I mean, that's the only good thing about the cops on this end, is that if they get caught for doing something wrong, they will get punished for it.
Yeah, then to add to all this other about the photo, you got Judy Dvorak saying, that sounds like Stephen Avery, right? That sounds just like Steve. That sounds like Avery.
Yeah, but you got...
I have to take that back about Minnesota. It was just a different county, right? When they actually got him, because it was the
it was in Wisconsin that he got caught.
Oh, it's Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yes, it was
Sorry
Wisconsin.
about that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And I wonder who it was he assaulted for them to actually take the risk to arrest him. I have a feeling he assaulted the wrong woman. They kept
it was a different county.
Yeah. But they didn't come forward and try and, you know, expose all his other shenanigans either, which tells me, you know, they didn't want no part of that. And there was something else I wanted to say. Dadgummit, I lost my train of thought. But maybe on our next break in reading, you can think of it. Hint, Christina, shut up.
Yeah, we need to get back to the document. So, oh yeah, go ahead, Doc. Before we start.
Can I just say one comment, because unfortunately I've got to go to the hospital. I have an appointment, but this is a very, very interesting a potential hypothesis here, and it all involves around what you guys are doing with Colburn. Now, one of the issues with Colburn is the fact that he's the one that took the 95 or 96 phone call, right? And so as a consequence of that, Making a Murder documentary highlighted the fact that, hey, look, Colburn didn't do his job proper. He got this phone call and nothing was done about it. Well, I'll tell you what, potentially, think about this. Someone like Kacerik and Vogel would be very, very worried, because Colburn is actually putting the case, the 1985 case, back in the spotlight. So could you imagine if Colburn actually sues Kacerik, because if Kacerik had done his due diligence back when that phone call was done, none of the spotlight would have shone on Colburn. So wouldn't that be very interesting? Because the more that Colburn highlights his plight with a civil suit, there's a great possibility that if this goes to trial, Kacerik and Vogel will be called up, right? And wouldn't that be amazing? Because the spotlight is firmly on Colburn. Why? Because the phone call never got properly resolved, right? So in other words, if they had followed this up without deep sixing it, Colburn would not be in the trouble he is today. So think about that. It could have a direct link to Kacerik and Vogel. Amazing when you think about it.
I've always
Colburn
had...
doesn't have the balls. He doesn't have the balls to sue Kacerik.
No, but I've always had issues with the call. I've always had issues with it. But that's, how could, whoever this detective was or officer, whoever the hell, from this other county. Why haven't we ever heard from this person? Did they wrap him up
Yeah.
with duct tape? You know, right? Something had to happen there.
I've always thought that there is a possibility that this phone call narrative that was interjected into this theme was a created event to distract from some sort of correspondence between the DCI, the AG's office, and Manitowoc Sheriff's Department about what was going on with the IP Innocence Project's work with trying to free Stephen. I can't really summarize eloquently what I think the call is. I think it's a red herring. I really do. I really, really do.
But it's kind of easy to verify where Gregory Allen was arrested, and
Mm-hmm.
did they say
Brown County?
a couple of counties, Brown County,
Yeah.
the date of that, and
yeah. So he was arrested, I believe, in 94 and then again in 95. I think it was May of 95 and August of 94, because he committed I don't know how many he committed, but there were 2 assaults that he was linked to. One he was ultimately convicted of, and he got the 60 years. And I think
I'm guessing that's the case when he made that call. I'm guessing that's the case.
Well, I think that's
if that call was made, that he made the confession. Yeah.
Well, here's the weird thing, though. But he didn't make a confession. We have no confession on record. We have, I don't know if it was the record that I got from Chris Bay or the record that Seeking Truth got. There are several snitches interviewed who clearly stated not only were they deathly afraid of Gregory Allen because he had dead eyes, that he never talked. Officers also said Gregory Allen refused to talk to them about anything that he did. He always said he was innocent, right? And that's what the Manitowoc County officers always claimed that he said. I don't know what you're talking about. You got the wrong guy. I was at work. You know what I mean? You can't see your ass from the hole in the thing. So for there to all of a sudden, for us to then entertain the thought that we're supposed to believe that all of a sudden there was this phone call made claiming that Gregory Allen then confessed to a crime, yet we have no confirmation. And how familiar is that? There's no corroboration that this actually happened. We only have Manitowoc County's word that it did. But yet we have that bizarre records request made by Stephen Avery's attorney. We have, the bizarre interviews made by Jean Couchet of officers who really didn't play an integral role in the original investigation. I've always thought that it was a possibility that the AG's office had, in DC, the crime lab, after getting test results, were trying to, what's it called, pad their margin of error and keep this case from being overturned. And the only reason I say that is because of Fallon's participation and statements made in all of these cases, right? Why was Fallon involved in Teresa Halbach's investigation and prosecution? That, you know what I mean? He had If he was going to be involved, the AG's office should have took control and handled the case. But they didn't. So I think that AG's office sat in on the case to make sure one didn't get overturned. Not to see that justice was done, just to make sure the win was secured. And I just think they've been playing dirty from the start. Those are just my thoughts. I don't know.
Interesting. Good conversation. All right, guys, let's get back to it. Line 22,
Hey,
Rhonda,
Jack.
whenever. Yeah. Uh-oh.
You're
Barely.
static.
Uh-oh, what happened?
I don't know.
Oh no, Susan, don't go away.
No.
No, you're really staticky. Sound like you sound like you're doing techno. It's bad.
Yeah. Talking through aluminum foil and water.
Yeah, I'm not sure. No, it sounds awful. I don't know what it is.
Oh.
Nope. Nope.
Bounce out and come back in.
Yeah, that might work. She's on her phone because she's having internet issues.
You know, it's weird. Do any of y'all have Verizon?
I do.
Have you had
Yeah.
issues?
Yep.
Have you had issues in the past few days? I had an article in our local garbage.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's start back. Line 22.
Okay. All right. So there would probably be an earlier photograph of Greg Allen responding to his booking in 1984, right?
Yes.
Okay. Where is that photo?
I don't know.
Who would know that?
The jail administrator.
All right. Again, do you know whether there was any policy when there was a later incident that the earlier photograph would be thrown away?
I don't know.
Oh my God, what do you know? Okay, you can put that back in. On that particular envelope, there's information on the outside. Could you tell us what that is?
Quote, original photos and jail information cards. Stephen Avery, date of birth 7/9/62. Gregory Allen, date of birth 1/17/54.
All right. Who put that information on there, if you know?
I don't know.
Could I see the exhibit for a moment? Thank you. Do you have exhibit 45, please? Now, what is 45 as a whole?
45 is the original documents according to Stephen Avery's records check.
How does the information in exhibit 45 as a whole differ from the information that's included in the various subfiles of exhibit 40A?
For A, B, and C?
No, 40A.
Okay.
Oh, what is 40A?
Why don't you just grab it? It's that top file there.
Okay, it's an A file. This file here.
Exhibit 40A?
Exhibit 40A, B, and whatever it. That's all part of the incident number is part of the summary.
Okay, let's see if
There's one line on the summary.
I understand you to be saying that exhibits 40A, B, and C are all information based on what summary?
On this incident number S85-04851. That one incident is on this summary records check.
Okay. And the summary records check that you're referring to is what document?
45.
All right. So 40A, B, and C is one part of a uniform, strike that. 40A, B, and C is one part of a universe composed of 40A, B, and C, and everything that's in 45.
Yes.
And does that also include the photographs that are in 46?
46 would be related to an incident that's part of the records check or the summary of Stephen Avery.
All right. You've been pointing to a document that you're referring to as the summary records check of Stephen Avery. Is that document part of Exhibit 45?
Yes,
And how about the page that's marked with the exhibit sticker 45? Is that part of the summary records check as well?
it's a portion of it. Yes.
All right. I'm going to suggest that
But
the second stapled part be marked Exhibit 45A.
this one here,
Right. So is it fair to say that if we put 45 and 45A together, we get the complete printout from the joint old system of every entry for Stephen Avery?
no. You would not get any city entries would not be in here in these original documents.
You mean the city of Manitowoc?
Correct.
I'm not asking you about the documents. I'm asking you about the summary. I understood your testimony to be that if you take 45, the 2-page document, 3-page document, and 45A, that's giving you all the Stephen Avery incidences under the old system.
As related to the sheriff's department's entries. Yes.
It doesn't give you the city of Manitowoc?
We can get it, but this document only has our stuff, only the sheriff's department.
Okay. So do you have exhibit 43, please? So why does 43 give you the city and 45 and 45A do not?
I don't know. There's some city documents in here.
In here being where?
In document exhibit 45A. It refers to,
Well, I'll put this in the form of a question. It would seem to me that as you've described the operation of the old system, 45 and 45A would have to give you the city as well as the county incidences of Stephen Avery. Because you've told us that the system prints out both. It was a joint system, right?
correct.
Okay. So do you want to correct your testimony that 45 and 45A give you everything for Stephen Avery?
I believe this is everything.
Okay. Now, what you do not have in the remainder of 45 and 46 is you
Wow.
don't have the narratives from the city side because you haven't asked for them.
Correct.
And is the same thing true with regard to Gregory Allen with respect to Exhibit 43? You don't have the narratives from the city for him because you haven't asked for them?
That's correct.
Okay. So if we take the entire contents of 40A, B, and C, 45 and 46, that gives us all of the narratives that the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department has concerning Stephen Avery.
That's correct.
All right. Beyond the face of exhibits 45 and 45A, when you go into the remaining materials from 45, in fact, why don't we mark that? Let's put a sticker on it and call it 45B.
Reporter, can we go off the record briefly?
Sure.
Off the record for 1 minute, back on the record.
The group of documents that has just been marked as Exhibit 45B, Mr. Beck, who pulled those together for this response to the request for production of documents?
I did.
Okay. When did you do that?
Right after the request came in, whatever the date was on your request.
All right. And were you also the person who pulled together everything you had in the sheriff's department for Gregory Allen?
Yes.
All right. And did you make a determination not to seek from the city of Manitowoc any further narrative incident reports concerning Stephen Avery and Gregory Allen?
Repeat the question.
Did you decide not to contact the city of Manitowoc to get incident reports from them for Gregory Allen and Stephen Avery?
I didn't decide not to. We just didn't.
Meaning that was just the fact. When you went about gathering these documents, no one had made any request from the city of Manitowoc,
No,
so there were no department documents for you to put together.
not from the city of Manitowoc. No.
Okay. The joint reporting system that you've described and that we've talked about with reference to exhibits 43, 45, and 45A, does it include the reporting of ordinance violations?
Should, yes.
All right. I'm not sure we've done this. Tell us what exhibit 46 is, please.
46 are photos relating to an incident 048530,
Okay.
which was a car fire.
And those are included in the Stephen Avery documents?
They're in this pack of documents. Yep,
Referring to exhibit 45B.
correct.
All right. What's exhibit 47?
In response to your request, I checked with the jail to see what documents they had on Stephen Avery, and this is what they produced.
May I see it for a moment, please? Let's go off the record for a minute, Jeff.
Off the record, 1045 to 1046, back on the record.
Did you also, in response to your request, receive the photographs in exhibit 44 when you asked the jail to give you everything they had on Stephen Avery?
Were those in that envelope?
Yes.
Repeat the question again.
Sure. You've just told us that you asked the jail for information on Stephen Avery, and that's what exhibit 47 is. And I'm asking you,
These were not produced at the same time as these were. No.
excuse me. Okay, well, let's start with 44 then. When were those produced?
Those were produced, it looks like December 1st of 04. Those were given to Inspector Harmon.
And you got them from him?
They were part of the bin, yes,
Okay.
part of the file.
And then the request that you made to obtain exhibit 47 was for what? Everything on Stephen Avery?
Anything that complies with your request. Give me everything you have on Stephen Avery.
And 47 is the entirety of what they gave you?
That's what they have, yes.
Okay. Yesterday, Mr. Glenn and I examined these documents amongst others, and there was one particular document which I think we copied for you having to do with correspondence between, I think, you and Stephen Avery in 2000, in which he asked for reports prepared by detectives, excuse me,
Meisner?
by detectives Meisner, Jadowski, and Kolinzik. And you answered him and said that the report or a report were enclosed, and we were unable yesterday to find that enclosed report. Have you made an effort since then to find it?
Right. If it's not with the incident, it's not there.
To your knowledge, does it exist anywhere?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Do you have any thought about what may have happened to it?
Nope, I do not.
And your understanding from the content of your letter to Mr. Avery is this was one or more reports detectives Meisner, Jadowski, and Polansik concerning him and the Penny Berenson sexual assault?
I'd have to read the request. I'd have to read what the request was, so.
Okay, let's go off the record.
Off the record, 1049 to 1051. Back on the record.
Mr. Beck, I'm going to show you a document that I have removed from Exhibit 45B. It bears case number S00 number 02565, and it's a Manitowoc County Sheriff incident card assigned to Beck. And in it, there's a letter dated March 27, 2000, from you as the Deputy Inspector Support Services Division to Stephen Avery, and I direct your attention to the third paragraph. And if you just read that into the record, and then we can talk about it a little bit.
Third paragraph, quote, in your second part of your letter, you requested what involvement Detectives Jadowski, Meisner, and Kalansik had in the Berenson Avery case. Enclosed is a copy of the report, which answer your questions concerning their involvement. Close quote.
So in the ordinary course of business, you obviously wouldn't send him the original, right?
No, I would not.
You'd make a copy, and that would be the enclosure, and then the original would go back to where?
Into storage, into our records room.
And you've searched for that report that described it in, and you searched for that report that's described in that third paragraph and have been unable to find it?
I believe the report that we sent him was a copy of the incident report, which is this one right here.
This one right here being?
The original case, the Avery Berenson case. That's more than likely what was sent to him. So he got a complete copy of the report. I show everybody's involvement in the case.
And you think that's one of the incident reports that are included in Exhibit 40A?
I don't know which one 48 is.
40A is, you've told me, all of the...
Oh, right. He would have probably have gotten a copy of incident report number S85-04851.
Would you pull it out first, please? Which document is it that you think you sent him?
He probably would have gotten a report, this copy of the incident report.
So this would be the entirety of the documents that are in the subfile of Exhibit 40A that's marked S85-04851 incident report?
Correct?
You think you sent all of that to Stephen Avery?
Right, because...
So the record is clear. There's one page I think he flipped over that would not have been in.
No, this is a Two Rivers, whatever this was, I don't know, Two Rivers document. On the face sheet of this, the first sheet of this incident report shows the people who were involved in the case. And the report, as it goes on through the narrative, describes what their involvement was.
All right.
So he probably would have got a copy of this report.
All right. May I see it for a moment? I notice when I look at the incident card that it does include Kalanzik, and how do you say that?
Kalanzik.
You got it.
Okay, Kalanzik, and it does not appear to include Meisner, and it does not appear to include Jadowski. Does that add anything to your knowledge about what was sent to Mr. Avery?
I would believe that I believe that I would have sent him the copy of the report with that face sheet showing people who were involved, and the narrative would describe their involvement.
All right. That's your best recollection?
That's my best recollection of it.
Okay.
You want this one back here too?
That goes, let's go off the record for a minute. What the hell?
Reporter off the record, and they're out for 1 minute. Back on the record.
The joint reporting system that you described to us earlier, does it include reports from the city of Two Rivers?
No, it does not.
Did it ever?
Nope.
You were called to the hospital on the evening of July 29, 1985, in respect to the Penny Berenson assault. Is that right?
Yes, I was.
How were you called?
I was called by radio through our dispatch center.
Were you on duty that evening?
Yes, I was.
Were you a patrolman at the time?
Yes, I was.
Did you have any duties with respect to the maintenance of records at the time?
Nope, I did not.
All right. When you got to the hospital, was Miss Berenson there?
Yeah, she was.
Was Sheriff Kosaric there?
No, he was not.
Was there anybody from the department there other than you?
No, just me.
So you were the first person from the department to talk with Penny Berenson?
Interesting.
Wow.
Yes, I was.
Very interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't
Me
either.
either.
Well, probably
He
none of us
just
did.
blew their story up.
You need to put that down on your notepad there, Christina.
Yep,
Do you remember? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
that's
Do
right.
you remember? Do you remember your conversation with her?
Vaguely. It was very short.
Tell me what you remember of it.
The conversation that I had, I believe I talked to her husband first because he was out in the hallway. We tried to find a location of where this incident happened, what happened, went into the emergency room. I believe it was the nurse that gave me a description of the attacker. Penny Berenson's conversation with her that thing couldn't have lasted. It was less than a minute. I asked her to confirm what the nurse had told me.
You asked Penny to do that?
Right. Confirm what the description the nurse had given me. And the doctor ordered us out of the room.
Okay, well, let's start with point number one. Do you know the identity of the nurse?
No, I do not.
Do you know the identity of the doctor?
No, I do not.
Your understanding is that Miss Berenson had given a brief description of her attacker to the nurse, who in turn gave it to you?
I believe that's the way it happened, yes.
And you tried to get a confirmation from Penny of what the nurse had told you, and the doctor said no?
No, she gave me a confirmation. I believe that's my recollection of it. Is this the description, confirming it some way? I don't remember if it was a nod or whatever, but she did confirm that information was correct.
What occasioned the doctor asking you to leave?
I was going to question her more, and he says no. He ordered me out. Apparently, they were working on her eyes or something.
Wow.
God.
All right. Other than Mr. Berenson, the doctor, the nurse, and Penny Berenson, was there anybody else present?
At that time, no.
All right. When you left the emergency room, where did you go?
Back on patrol.
So you did not stay at the hospital?
Oh, I stayed until the sheriff got there.
All right. So, do you recall about how long it was that you stayed at the hospital until the sheriff got there?
I couldn't tell you exactly how long. I was on the phone contacting detectives to come in. It was pre-pager years. We had telephone conversations with dispatch, relaying the information to them and trying to get a detective. I was having difficulty getting a detective in. After a while, Sheriff Kasurik showed up.
Before the sheriff showed up, did you talk to him over the phone?
No, I did not.
What detectives did you attempt to contact?
None. Dispatch
So,
contacted detectives.
so
I did talk to two of them, but I did not contact them. Oh,
okay,
Jesus.
let me okay, let me see if I've got the sequence right. You leave the emergency room and you go to the phone and call dispatch.
Right. I asked for detectives to come in. I relayed the information and the approximate location of where the incident happened and the description of that was given to me.
And that was all relayed to you by dispatch or to dispatch?
Correct.
Who at dispatch? Do you remember the identity of the dispatcher?
I don't remember. No, don't remember.
All right.
I don't
So
recall.
that's so that's did that take place all in one conversation?
I might have had a couple of conversations with dispatch, probably more than one because I was,
Between the first and second conversation with dispatch, did you talk to anybody else?
yes, I believe it was two detectives called in. One was Detective Kalenzik and the other was Detective Conrad. I think those were the two that called in.
That would be Al Kalancic and Larry Conrad.
Correct.
And did you ask them to come to the hospital?
Yes, I did.
And as of the time that these conversations that you've described so far took place, the sheriff had not yet arrived at the hospital.
I believe he came in after I got off the phone. I don't know if it was, how much time had elapsed since then, but
Did you tell him about the contacts you had with dispatch with Conrad and with Kalancic?
I believe I called dispatch back a second or a third time, explaining that I needed a detective. The two that had called me weren't available, so I need you to call somebody else, but I need a detective to come in.
And
I believe it may have been at that time that the dispatch called the sheriff.
all right.
I did not call the sheriff.
At any time in the sequence that you've just described, did Reserve Deputy Judy Dvorak show up at the hospital?
Da-da-da-da.
Da-
Yes, she did.
Where, in reference to the sequence you've just described, did she show up? Was it after the sheriff got there, or did she show up before the sheriff got there?
Oh, she would have been there before the sheriff was there.
And while you were still there,
Yes,
and before any detective had come.
yes,
So there was a period of time in which the only two people from the sheriff's department who were there were you and Deputy Dvorak.
correct.
Did you tell Deputy Dvorak the description that you had received from the nurse that had been confirmed by a nod from Penny Berenson?
I don't think so.
Mr. Cavelli, objection to the form of the question.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Do you recall anything of the conversation that you had initially when Judy Dvorak came to the hospital?
I had her go in because we were required to leave. The doctor didn't want anybody in there. I asked if we could leave Judy Dvorak in there to take notes if any conversation comes up. She
Hey.
would not talk to the doctor.
We were required.
We could leave her. Yeah.
Who's the we? I thought you were alone. Who's the we?
Right?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, but I find that interesting.
Uh-huh. Good catch. I
Well,
had her
no,
go
I had-
in because
I had her go, yeah. Because he had Judy Dvorak go in because the doctor had asked them to leave. But
asked who? We. He says he's the only one there.
Judy Dvorak and him, Beck. If we could leave Judy Dvorak,
He's
I asked if
talking.
we
He's
could leave-
talking about himself in the third person. You know.
that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I don't know. It's weird wording for damn sure.
It is weird wording for sure.
Doesn't make any sense. I had her
No.
go in because we were required to leave. The doctor didn't want anybody in there.
He claims he
I
was
asked if we could leave Judy Dvorak in there to take notes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it doesn't make any
What?
no, it doesn't make sense.
No, there's someone else there. It's either Kasurek or it's Vogel. It's gotta
Yep.
be.
No, he says he's alone, so that he just perjured the hell out of himself. Maybe.
Well, possibly.
I bet Judy showed
Come
up
on.
with the sheriff.
Yeah.
Keep on going. Let's get to a little bit
Maybe.
more before Rhonda has to
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Oh.
I asked if we could
yeah.
leave Judy Dvorak in there to take notes if any conversation comes up. She would not talk to the doctor. She would not ask any questions. She'd just be there in case Penny said something. So I had her stay in the emergency room with Penny Berenson and the doctor. And that was okay with the doctor.
And can you estimate for us about, I know you can't do it exactly, but how long you were at the hospital?
I really don't know.
All right.
It wasn't that long.
After Judy Dvorak came to the hospital, did any of the detectives appear before the sheriff got there?
We had one investigator come. That was Jean Boucher.
The pencil.
Imagine that.
All right, I'm going to stop us right here at the top of this page. We can always. Actually, I'm going to highlight this right here, so we can refer back to it when we pick this back up, because we're pushing 4 hours and it's we need to.
My husband is like coming down the stairs and looking at me like he's gonna divorce me.
Can I just say, read through line 5 on the next page.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Is that
Yes.
Let me undo this so we'll have a stopping point. All right, start at the top of the page.
it's
All right.
he was there to do the composite, the drawing.
Who's we when you say we had one investigator come?
I should say I had.
Ah,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
correct.
Oh,
Corrected himself or something.
or something.
Or something.
Yeah, let me fix this here.
Oh, so he said, who else did he say was involved from the beginning? Kalanchik, him, Kasurek.
Well, they were called. They were called,
Dassey
but they said
and-
they couldn't come in, right?
Yeah, and Jadowski.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe what they claim happened is what happened, right? So we have to infer from their little Freudian slips what actually happened.
Mm.
Because this was we all agree this was an intentional frame, right? I think we're all there. Alice, do you think this was intentional? The 85 case? They knowingly framed Stephen for a crime he didn't commit from the beginning?
Yes, definitely.
Cherie? Uh-oh, I put her to bed. Susan, do you agree?
Oh, you know I do.
All right, Jax?
Absolutely.
Rhonda?
Yep, of course.
So this guy Beck is trying to sell whatever story they tried to come up with. And he's doing a shit poor ass job of it. So
Uh-huh.
who
Oh, did I say we? I meant I.
yeah. Yeah, and you notice how Glenn let him say we multiple times before he asked him about it. You know, he wanted to because he wanted to make sure that when he claimed that, oh, I meant to say I thing, that it, you know, it's obvious that there was a bunch of you together trying to figure out how to get this off the ground. Wow, this is a good call, Jax, on doing this depo.
Super interesting deposition. Yeah.
Yes, you are the bomb at these.
Had no idea he was the first one at the hospital.
I didn't either. Well, I probably did at some point, but like I said, I haven't read this. I probably read this one time back in a line of depositions that I read, you know, multiples.
Right.
And I just.
Right. So much
you know,
info.
Yep. Information overload, right?
Yeah.
I think what I have done is prioritize them by the names that I recognize, and I just don't recognize his name.
Right.
So did I read it? Yeah. But did I actually sit and read it? No. And
I remember the Beck name, and I knew he was a cop. You know, I knew that he had come up through the ranks, had been there for a while. Didn't know he had got 175, but all this other stuff. No, I didn't. It didn't stick.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Again, I cannot wait until we actually are able to obtain reports that Chris Surik has written. I'm just curious to see if these are the themes that his reports have. Like, does this bullshit narrative come from his brain?
He said he didn't call Kosarik, so who did?
Dispatch.
Yeah.
He said that the dispatch called the sheriff when the dispatcher couldn't get a hold of any detectives.
Oh, yeah.
So, alrighty. Let's wrap up. We've been here 3 hours and almost 40 minutes. So it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for
dinner time.
Some dinner. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I think I'm having Chinese stir fry. I think that's what is on the agenda tonight.
Yummy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mashed potatoes and fresh carrots.
Oh, I'm coming to Utah. Screw the stir fry. You said
my daughter makes the best food.
You said meatloaf, mashed potatoes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Ooh, meatloaf.
Let's go, Susan. Come on.
So good.
We're having leftover scallop turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole. We had Christmas yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, we have a new member I've never seen before, Brooklyn Lombard. Hey, thanks for coming. I hadn't seen her before.
Welcome, Brooklyn.
Yep.
Welcome, Brooklyn.
We're wrapping up. Hey, I see Badrex is in the live chat as well. I'd like to thank everybody. Yep. For hanging around and going through this deposition. Like I knew this would be a longer one and we wouldn't finish. But we'll see what happens through the week. If there's an opportunity, maybe we can hop back on and finish this one up, have a conversation about it. Because I'm anxious to read the rest of it. I won't intentionally. But we'll see.
We'll all be surprised together.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if there's an open night that maybe we can jump in.
We're just about halfway through, it looks like.
That's a long. Is this the longest deposition? Do you know?
No, that award goes to
No.
Brenda Peterson. Hers is 230 or 40 pages.
And how long is this one again?
133, I think.
33.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not the longest one. There's a few that are pretty lengthy.
Brenda is very interesting simply because I cannot imagine being a female trying to help female victims of violent crime in that environment and then trying to expose the truth, save my marriage, my job, and my life, right? And she did the best she could. But I always think about what Jim Thayer said, or I think that was his name, when Kathleen Zellner came to tour Manitowoc County. She came with a bodyguard, a driver who had a gun, and then 2 armed escorts.
Hell, I don't blame her.
And if you are
Yeah.
not doing that, unless you think it's a possibility that the cops are murderers, plain and simple.
Hey, good night, Bethany. Thanks for coming. All righty.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
I'm
Good night, everyone. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to scoot us out of here. And
Yeah.
like I said,
I just want to say thanks, everyone, for listening to my long.
hey, it's a good conversation. Good debate. Good stuff. And you apparently got a pile of good notes too, so that's all worth it as well. Anyway, like I said, we'll try
Brooklyn grew up in Manitowoc during the whole thing, so it's crazy to see.
Hey,
That's
we need
awesome.
some one of the mods needs to drop her a link to our Discord so she can get on with us and talk.
Absolutely, Brooklyn. We'd love that.
In fact, I'll do that right now. Grabbing link.
Awesome. You grew up there. Were you a kid?
You should definitely join our Discord, Brooklyn. We would love to pick your brain and listen to any info you want to share and also impart any information you're wanting to have.
Andy,
There's
don't
all
go.
kinds of new stuff.
I know, Andy. It's
It's my fault. I can't stay any longer, so I'm.
No, it's not. It's getting late, and it's it's Sunday night.
I gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta go too because I'm.
Yeah.
If not, I'm gonna be. My girlish figure. I gotta feed my hips.
My husband's gonna force me between this and my other.
Speaking out, guys. Good night.
Good night, Rhonda.
Good night, Rhonda.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna end up living in a tent before too long.
All righty, guys. We'll try to get. I'll try to slip us in maybe sometime this week. I don't know exactly when. Maybe Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see what other people are doing, and I don't want to interrupt any other podcast. But we'll try to slip another couple hours in and get further into this document because I'm anxious to read it now. So anyway, with that said, this has been a Foul Play production.